Holy shit, what's up, people? It is June 4th, 2014, and it is the 93rd edition of the MMA Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We got a bunch to break down. This past Saturday, we had 13 hours of fights. UFC Berlin went down in the afternoon. The Tough Brazil 3 finale went down at night. We had a nice 2-hour intermission, but so many UFC fights to break down and talk about. Of course, craziness with Chael Sonnen's next fight. Wanderlei, he's out. He ran out of a drug test. Will he fight Vitor? The Nevada State Athletic Commission will announce his drug test result June 17th. This Jon Jones saga going on, of course, this Saturday. Ben Henderson versus Khabilov. Let's do the damn thing.
You're listening to the MMA Podcast!
Hell yeah, Lenny Hart. It is the MMA Podcast. Like I said, the 93rd edition of the MMA Podcast. We'll have to do something special when we hit 100. It's June 4th, 2014. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. Visit themmapodcast.com. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can call in. The phone number is 213-457-3380, or you can Skype us at the MMA Podcast. You guessed it. Quick shout out to Ramses at the Aunt Jimmy Show. He's feeling a little sick tonight, probably in part because we were literally up after the show chatting on Skype until I think like 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Is fucking stupid. But Ramses feeling a little bit shitty, so he won't be on. But his show, The Word on the Street, we do it every Tuesday night. And last night, we no lie had the best, and the best, most exciting interview, or most entertaining interview I've ever been a part of. We talked to Uriah Hall for almost 2 hours, and he was breaking down everything from his next fight to getting in a fight with a former MMA legend. I won't spoil it. I'll make you go back. A former MMA legend wearing a Jason mask. Just a ton of stuff. He was super candid with us. It like just felt like a bunch of friends chatting. It was fucking unbelievable. So check it out. We also had, of course, the living legend Coach Jamie Huey on. We talked to him a little bit after we let Uriah Hall go. It was an amazing show. So go check out Word on the Street 112. Featuring Uriah Hall. As always, you can subscribe to us on iTunes. The tweet is posted up at the top of our Twitter, so go check us out there. But enough of pumping up my own shit. We're joined tonight by three fellas who know their damn MMA. Though the first guy actually, I think he ran into a burning house recently to save a older couple, and it's not the first time he's ran into a burning house to save people. The guy is one of the best guys around. He's protecting the mean streets of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You can find him on Twitter at Westland Eagle AH. Alan, what the fuck's going on, dude?
What's up, everybody? It's great to be here. I'm always happy and excited to talk some MMA and get some of this anxiety off my chest with some of the stuff that's been going on in the MMA world lately.
Yeah, and we will be talking about all of that. We're also joined by a guy who's actually been on the show once or twice before calling in. This is the first time we've had him as a panelist. Really pumped to have him on. We chat all the time on Twitter. If you're not following him on Twitter, we give him shout-outs all the time, but he is Conley Razor, CONLEYRASOR. Easy enough. Conley, what the fuck's going on, man? How are you doing today?
Thanks, Jake. I appreciate it. Psyched for being on here tonight with you guys, talking a little bit about all the crazy shenanigans that this past week in MMA. It's been pretty crazy. So, yeah, man, I'm pumped. And I'm channeling Ramsey for this, so hopefully we can be one in this upcoming discussion.
Hell yeah. And, of course, I've got to save the best Jew in the business for last. E before the L. What's going on, Ross?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the MMA Podcast. This is not the word on the street, and my bastard father, Ramses, is thankfully not here tonight. Enough about him. Let's talk about the show, and let's talk about me. You can find me on Twitter at Ross Finkelstein, E before the L. You know the deal. I'm happy to be here. It was 13 hours of fights this weekend. I almost died. Hopefully this isn't a 13-hour podcast. Let's do it.
Yeah, and usually it's really funny because every interview will start with Ramsey saying, all right, I'm going to try and keep this as quick as possible. Every interview usually ends with him saying, all right, last question like 6 or 7 times. But it's always a good interview. Last night was, I think, the best we have ever done. I'm glad he made it. Mute up if you can because the background noise is incredibly loud. It sounds like you're next to a steam generator standing on top of Niagara Falls in the middle of the Hoover Dam. Ninja, if you could mute up. Okay, I think he muted up for us. It is the Ninja Larson. He was on last night's interview with Uriah Hall. Pardon me, I was stuttering my dick off there. Ninja, how the hell are you? Thanks for calling in, being a part of tonight's show, buddy.
I'm great. How are you guys?
I'm doing good. Your quality is exceptionally terrible. If there's any way you could, I don't know, go to a less noisy place around, but yeah. It's super loud. But yeah, let's get straight to the damn MMA. We had 2 events this past weekend. Okay, cool. He muted up. I was like, I don't want to drop you off the call, Ninja, but you muted up. You saved your own damn life here on the show. UFC Berlin was the first Saturday event I want to break down. It started pretty early. I think it started at 9:30 over here on the West Coast. We saw a ton of fun fights. I'm going to start with the prelim card and then bump up to the main card where we saw a masterful performance by Gegard Mousasi over Mark Munoz in the main event. The UFC Fight Pass prelims, this whole card was on UFC Fight Pass. We had the Russian Ruslan Magomedov defeating Victor Pesta, the featherweight Maximo Blanco over Andy Ogle, and Peter Sabata over Paulak. All those were unanimous decisions. Yuri Alcantara with an impressive KO over Wanderlei just 25 seconds into the fight. Magnus Sindenblad defeating Krzysztof Jotko via second round guillotine choke submission with 1 second left in the round. And Nick Hein defeating Drew Dober in a unanimous decision there. So we had 4 decisions, 2 finishes. To me, obviously, the performance by Yuri over Vaughn, a 25 second just drubbing KO. Vaughn didn't look like he belonged in the cage with Yuri. Yuri's a guy I really think will be in the top 10 of the UFC bantamweights for a long time. Obviously, we have a new champion in that division, and also Maximo Blanco. You know, he definitely earned the win over Ogle, but you have got to give Ogle a lot of respect for standing in there and taking a lot of damage. I guess let's go with the whole order thing, because that seems to work out better than when it's every man for himself. We'll do fuck it. Alan, Ninja, then Conley, and then the damn Jew. Alan, what did you think of the prelims here at UFC Fight Night, Munoz versus Mousasi?
I think I only got to see a couple of them, but yeah, the Yuri Alcantara fight, man. Well, let's not call it a fight, because it wasn't a fight. It was a one man ass kicking. I expected him to dominate Wanderlei. Wanderlei he looked excellent against Nam Pham, but let's be honest, Yuri Alcantara almost beat Uriah Faber, and the dude knocked out Ricardo Lamas in the WEC. And he dropped down a weight class, and he's huge for 135, and Wanderlei's not a very big 135er, so I didn't expect him to get like a quick knockout like that. I thought it'd be a little more competitive, but man, kudos to him. It looked beautiful, and I'm trying to remember the other fights that were on there. The Drew Dober fight kind of went how I saw it playing out. I don't think Drew's he's a tough guy. He's he's from the South. I think he's from Texas or something. But his last performance, he was real tough. But he was fighting a weight class above. And this fight, he just he kind of got outskilled by a guy who's just Hein is just more aggressive. Better in the scrambles, more technical, and just an overall better fighter. So I just think it's due to the level of he's just not UFC caliber. Let's see what he does. He goes to the World Series of Fighting or something like that. But it's a good way to round out the bottom of the roster. See who makes it with these Fight Pass cards and these prelims. Bringing in local talent from Berlin, from Germany, and all these different places. It's it's really cool to see like new talent come in and you don't know anything about them, and they come in and show up like Kine did, and just make you a believer. So that was really the two fights that stood out for me, and I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, really quickly to touch on two different things. You make an excellent point with the whole thing about the local fighters. If I saw a ton of people saying there's too many cards, these cards fucking suck, blah blah blah. If you don't like these cards, you can just watch the pay-per-views. No one's making you watch these small events. And Dana White has even said this is not like, we're not doing this aiming toward like the people watching all over the world. This is to build up local areas so we can go to places like Maine, and I think they're doing a card later in the year in Tulsa, and all a ton of places, whether it's Brazil or Japan or Germany. I mean, people were giving them shit because they haven't done any Dutch events. And doing more cards is I really enjoy seeing these up and coming people, and I really enjoy seeing the UFC being able to branch out to a ton of new places. The other point I wanted to make was my boy Jay Jeans. I wanted to give him a shout out. He kept saying even before the fight, Wanderlei is the most overrated fighter in the fucking UFC. Period. And as far as predicting the fight, he was right on the button. Jay giving no love for his countrymen. I just said cunt there. Ninja, what did you think of the prelims on UFC Berlin?
If you can hear me, I think I cleared up my technical issue there. First of all, the one that stood out to me the most is the Maximo Blanco fight. That guy's a stud. He's so talented, so great. And for anybody that can hang with him and keep his skills at bay, I mean, that's a huge feather in the cap.
Ninja, I'm sorry, your quality is. We cannot hear what you're saying. Maybe try and reset your shit and call back for us. But yeah, we are not picking you up whatsoever. Let me drop him off of the call there. Mr. Razor, what did you think of this UFC Berlin card?
Yeah, as far as the preliminaries go, Alan brought up a very good point. I mean, the UFC is scraping the bottom of the barrel, but for a lot of these guys, it's their first fight in a big show, and you could definitely tell that, and we'll touch on the main card later, but Nicholas Backstrom, he was flipping out, like he was just so engulfed with, the lights and everything, and you could see, I guess as far as the prelim card goes, Magnus is gaining some star power. He looked really good in his fight that he had. He showed some very impressive submissions with that guillotine choke in the second round. And Maximo Blanco, honestly, poor Andy Ogle, it didn't seem like he had a chance. He was just kind of getting dominated, but you could really see his heart. His parents were probably there, but those are the two that really stood out for me. I did bet a little on Wanderlei for the upset, but like you said, he was overhyped and he just got absolutely decimated in the very first few seconds of that of his fight. So pretty embarrassing for him. But overall, as far as the preliminaries go, I was really impressed with just the tenacity that they all showed and the heart that they had just going in there. And on the post-fight press conference, the excitement in their eyes, when they got to see, the whole crowd.
I guess I take it from here.
Hell yeah, Ross. Take it away.
First off, I want to say that the preliminary card of this event was better than the entire Brazil card, like from top to bottom. No contest, in my opinion. These were some solid fights, and even though we got a lot of decisions, it was a decision-heavy event, they were entertaining fights from the first fight of the night all the way up until the last fight of the night. To start off a card with a heavyweight fight, I mean, that's pretty bold because you're guaranteed to get something there, or you're guaranteed to get absolute shit. It's either going to be a big flash knockout or something like that, or you're going to get absolute shit.
Two
where it's just
super
hard
tired dudes, yeah.
Yeah, like Nikita Krylov and So Paleli. But we actually were in for a big surprise, and we saw a pretty damn entertaining, pretty good heavyweight fight between Ruslan Magomedov and Victor Pesta. And Victor Pesta had Magomedov hurt, and Magomedov, he's ranked pretty much as the number one heavyweight prospect outside of the UFC. So that's pretty big to go out there and nearly beat him. So there's a big future there for Victor Pesta, and there's a future there for Ruslan Magomedov. He's got very, very, very unorthodox striking, very good striking too. Maximo Blanco and Andy Ogle went exactly how I predicted, how I think everyone predicted. As long as Maximo Blanco doesn't find a way to lose, which he somehow will put himself into positions where he will try to find a way to lose, but I guess he couldn't lose this time. What else was there? There was Yuri Alcantara destroying Wanderlei. He did get him kind of in the back of the head, but who cares? Wanderlei sucks. And then the one fight that I did want to point out is Nick Hein and Drew Dober. That was fun as hell. I mean, two guys went back and forth. Nick Hein is a beast. He has insane judo credentials. I'm not sure if he's an Olympic judoka, but he maybe an Olympic alternate, something like that. Maybe the national team. He has some high Olympic or something of that caliber judo credentials. And he's a solid striker too. Plus, he's really, really built. Really, really built. He's kind of like Sean Shirk 2.0. Maybe a little bit smaller, but he's kind of got that build. So that's a guy I think we have to look out for. So these prelims, we saw a lot of really good prospects in Nick Hein. Yuri Alcantara, we can kind of still consider a prospect if he's still fighting on prelims like this. And he's still kind of ranked just outside the top 15, top 10. So he still has a way to go. Ruslan Magomedov, of course. And even Peter Sabata, his return to the UFC, he looked fantastic. I mean, he destroyed whoever that dude was, Powell Powlock or whatever his name was. So, yeah, good card.
Yeah, and Magnus Sindenblad, the only guy on the prelims to get a $50,000 Performance of the Night bonus. Which brings us to the main card. We had two finishes, two decisions. It started with a first-round bulldog choke. Nicholas Backstrom earning $50,000 with a domination over Tom Ninamaki, which was a big shocker too. I believe Ninamaki was a pretty big favorite there. Sean Strickland winning a split decision against Luke Barnett in a fight that was really close. I thought Luke won. I thought Strickland spent most of the second and third round trying to get away from Luke. And yeah, he was landing a strike here and there, but Luke was just so easily the general of the ring. Just, Sean was probably backpedaling 90 to 95% of that second and third round, but Sean ended up winning the split decision 28-29, 30-27, 29-28. A lot of people were saying it was like the Diaz-Condit fight, which I could not disagree with anymore. Condit was circling out and landing really good strikes, and I mean, this reminded me a lot more of Guida Maynard than it reminded me of Condit versus Diaz. Moving on, CB Dalloway earns $50,000 with a domination, just a complete domination over the, I think he's French. He's from somewhere in Europe. I have Wikipedia, so I'm going to look it up, people. He is French. I shouldn't have doubted my gut instinct. Dalloway wins the unanimous nod, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. Easy win for him, and he'll probably get bumped up and face a pretty decent middleweight next. And staying with the middleweights, the main event, Gegard Mousasi defeating Mark Munoz in the first round via rear naked choke. A lot of people saying that Mark should hang up the gloves. I don't think he's ready to do that quite yet. Gegard is just a top-notch guy. I think I was listening to the JRE. I think it was the one with Dillashaw and Ludwig this past Monday. Awesome Rogan podcast. Check it out. I think it was either Dwayne or Rogan who made a very good point about Gegard in that people think of him as a kickboxer, but the guy is deadly on the mat. Prove that getting the RNC about 4 minutes into the first round, also earning himself a $50,000 bonus for performance of the night. There were no fight of the night bonuses. I'll throw it to Alan first. Alan, what did you think of these 4 fights? It was an incredibly entertaining main card on UFC Fight Pass. Subscribe if you haven't yet, cocksuckers.
Yeah, man. After watching these fights, it perplexes me. I do not understand why this fight night was not on, broadcast TV, and the goddamn Brazil card wasn't just on, the Fight Pass. These fights were like really good. The only fight that really, wasn't entertaining was the Barnett and Strickland fight, and I had to go back and watch it a second time because, I was watching it from Fight Pass at work, and I wasn't able to, completely pay full attention. But hey, after going back and watching it, man, I like Strickland, really good kid. I met him in Dallas. He was very impressive there. But yeah, he did. I know he said he had a hurt hand, but he backpedaled the whole time, and he didn't land enough significant strikes like Condit was whenever he was fighting Diaz. I mean, Condit, rearranged Nick Diaz's face backpedaling. If you do that and you do that type of damage, then that's enough said. You deserve the win. But there was no way that Strickland deserved the victory in the decision. It's insane how some of these judges can get this stuff wrong. I mean, they're doing this for a living. The Tom Ninimaki fight in the Backstrom, man, that was a crazy grappling exchange, and how he got caught, from behind in that position. It doesn't happen very often. So to see a guy, get caught from behind in that like bulldog type, just rear naked choke is kind of crazy. You don't see that submission very often especially in high level MMA, and pretty big upset right there. And I'm gonna talk about the Munoz fight before I go to the other one. But dude, Mark Munoz and Mousasi, I thought would be a much more competitive fight. I thought they would go back and forth for a while. I didn't expect Mark to have those sloppy shooting takedowns attempts that he had in the first round. I really didn't see him. I thought that he would try and get inside, clinch, and then try to take him down, because a lot of his takedowns in the UFC are from the clinch. They're not off of double legs. And he did absolutely the opposite of that. He shot for the double leg, looked horrible at it, because I mean Mousasi is as quick as Machida almost, and that's saying something. If you're almost as fast as Lyoto Machida, that's crazy. And I think Mousasi's probably the third best guy in that division. But Mousasi getting the submission, just outclassing Mark Munoz in pretty much every aspect of the MMA game. It was crazy. But let's go on to the real main event. The real main event of this Fight Pass card was CB Dalloway. CB fucking the Doberman Dalloway beating the shit out of Francis Fancy Boy Carmel. Jesus Christ, it was beautiful to see CB Dalloway go in there and not get screwed out of another decision and just be dominant over a guy. I mean, he looked more impressive over Kamal than, Jacare did over Kamal. So, I definitely think that says a whole lot for CB. He's come so far from, where he started off, the Ultimate Fighter, and it just, he impresses me every time he goes out there. I think he's got so much confidence in his game now. He knows he can go out there and he can strike with the best that, it's crazy. But big ups to CB, and, it was a great fight.
Hell yeah, looks like Ninja's connection is not there. So we will move on to Conley. What did you think of this main card, the 4 fights?
Yeah, this was an amazing main card. I loved it. I've never actually heard of a schoolyard guillotine until old Nicholas Backstrom. I guess they call it a bulldog choke, but on the commentary they're calling it a schoolyard guillotine. That was really cool. I actually put a little money on him because he's a very emotional fighter, and you can tell right when he gets into the ring, and he puts it all out there. He trains with Gus too, which I heard about. And with his reach and height advantage, it was amazing that he was an underdog going into that fight. So definitely capitalized there. On the Sean Strickland and Luke Barnett fight, that was an interesting fight because Sean Strickland did seem a little more technical. He was backing up, but he was countering a lot of Luke Barnett's attacks. And I did pick Strickland to win this fight, mainly because if you listen to the MMA Hour, Luke Barnett had been having some management troubles. And sometimes, conflicts outside of the cage can definitely, hinder your performance inside of the cage. So I figured that Strickland, being the underdog, would probably have kind of a fire, underneath him. I think the judge that scored at 30-27 kind of screwed Luke Barnett out of like a very close decision win. But it is, you can argue, who wins on that fight. But I did notice, Strickland countering a lot. And I agree with Alan. I think CB Dollaway and Francis Carmont was the main event, like for me at least. Also, Francis Carmont is a guy that has a lot of hype around him. None of his fights are very interesting. He's like a neutralizer. He uses his wrestling base to prevent any kind of damage coming to him. I think he gets a lot of hype mainly because GSP's in his corner, and he trains, up there in Canada with that whole team. CB looked great. You could tell he was exhausted after the fight, and it looked like he took every ounce of energy to just be on top of him the whole time. It was pretty amazing because, I always wonder if that was a 5-round fight, could CB, make it those extra 2 rounds? And I think he could, and mainly because I guess when you're a fighter at that particular level and you have that wrestling base, you can dig and you can grind in, and you can, earn a very dominant decision over, a top 10 in Francis Carmont, which is no longer a top 10 anymore. CB Dollaway, I think next for him would probably be Yoel Romero. Yoel's on kind of a hot streak right now. That would be good. He did tweet that he wanted Tim Kennedy next, but I think that's, that fight really doesn't make too much sense at the moment. Moving on to Gegard and Mark Munoz. When you look at Gegard and Machida's fight compared to Munoz's and Machida's fight, you can't really give too much to Munoz. Sorry. Munoz and Machida's fight was not good, definitely. Machida just had him outskilled the whole time. And in this fight, I figured too, Gegard, he's going to have Munoz outskilled the whole time. He put down, a first-round win, submission, rear naked choke. It was beautiful. He was always, even when Munoz was taking him down, you could tell he had been practicing, being taken down and popping right back up, or deflecting that takedown that Munoz. It looked like Munoz was actually going to slam him, in that first round real early. And Gegard used his arm to actually kind of roll out of the slam, which was really interesting. From that point, I just knew that Gegard had it. But overall, as far as the main card, yeah, I was really impressed with it. I got real excited. I even watched it again a few times. So, yeah, definitely top quality for UFC Fight Pass.
Hell yeah, and I think we got the Ninja back. I hope his connection is a little bit better. Gracie Ninja, are you there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here. You guys keep cutting in and out a little bit, so I hope you guys can hear me just fine.
We can hear you.
Cool. Last week I called it right down. The fight I was interested in, Gegard Mousasi. Again, I got a shout out to my buddy Jesus Pinedo. Follow him at Jesus Pinedo on Twitter. He told me about Gegard Mousasi before anybody knew about, before he was even in Strikeforce, and said, watch out for this guy. And this is exactly why. The only thing you can put, this guy's an assassin. I mean, let me just put it that way. Gegard Mousasi obviously has an excellent stand-up. He's got kicks, punches. He can work in tight with knees. And that's not even his biggest strength, which is the great part about this guy. If you take him down, there's a really good chance.
Sweet Jesus.
For the love of God, he's dead. He's dead, people. Ross, what did you think of the main card?
You trying to do Yao there without the... Never mind.
I just go an octave deeper sometimes.
You wish you had this deep voice, Jake. You wish you had this. The main card of this Fight Pass card was the best main card we had all weekend, which is not really saying much because we only had 2. But that being said, it was solid. From the first fight, you had Nicholas Backstrom and Tom Ninamaki. Tom Ninamaki is a guy who I've been touting up tremendously. I've been saying this guy is going to break into the top 10. He's going to be a title contender. He out-grappled Hani Yahya, which is phenomenal when you think about it. This is a guy who was not a grappler, has only been recently working on his wrestling game since about 2010. And holy shit, he took a break from MMA. He came back and he went on a tear. He won like 10 or 11 in a row. He's an absolute monster. And for the first couple of minutes, for the first 4 minutes, it looked like he was on his way to winning this fight. I mean, he was taking Nicholas Backstrom down. Nicholas Backstrom was doing a good job of getting back to his feet, but Tom Ninamaki was clearly out-grappling him. But Nicholas Backstrom, he fought apparently with a toothache, which does kind of suck, but you got to suck it up and fight anyway. And with all that adrenaline pumping, you really shouldn't even feel that anyway. It was his UFC debut, so maybe he had the jitters a little bit. But to pull off a submission like that, I mean, this is a guy who also was being touted as one of the top featherweight prospects outside of the UFC, who was coming into the UFC. And he really shined. I mean, he caught him in a crazy bulldog choke of all things. I mean, it's kind of like a rear naked choke, but you don't have the hooks in, so it's more of a bulldog choke. It was like a side headlock. He locked it in, and that was that. It was a wrap. It was a beautiful submission. And this is a guy you guys really have to look out for because he's a really solid fighting in the featherweight division. If you're 6 feet tall, that's a huge advantage. You've got that reach. You've got the reach with the kicks, too. He can kick. He can punch. He's a training partner of Alexander Gustafsson. He's over there at that All-Stars gym. So big things in his future. And Tom Ninamaki, he got caught. He's going to be back, and he's going to break into the top 10. I still think he's got a tremendous future ahead of him. He's training with the Black Zillions, and he's phenomenal. I mean, just if you don't believe in Tom Ninamaki, and you've never seen him fight, or never seen the Hani Yahya fight specifically, go back and watch the Hani Yahya fight, because that shows what this guy can do. Sean Strickland and Luke Barnett was not fun at all. I thought it would be. It was the fight I was looking forward to the most out of any fight throughout the entire day, both cards. I thought it was very intriguing because it was a battle of two prospects in the middleweight divisions. One of these guys would, I guess, be launched up into the maybe getting top 15 competition next. especially Luke Barnett with a win. That would be his 4th UFC win. And I thought he won this fight. I thought he was absolutely robbed. I scored the fight 30-27 for Luke. I don't see any way how Sean Strickland could have won the fight. I thought it was one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. Sean broke his hand, and then from there on, he did the exact same thing for basically the 2nd and 3rd rounds. He would throw a jab. He kept his right hand up and his left hand down, which is obviously not good. And then he would come up with his jab every couple seconds, and he would circle to his left with his hand down. That is textbook wrong. That is horrible technique. What's even more atrocious, what's a bigger abomination, is the fact that Luke Barnett did not capitalize on that and throw any right high kicks.
He won't make that mistake again.
Oh, it was horrible to watch. I was like screaming at the TV, screaming at the computer, because it was right there. The victory was right there. I mean, the dude's hand's broken. He's keeping his hand down. He's circling into it. It's just a perfect setup. And I was discussing this with Yao after the fact, and we both just shared the same opinion of disgust. Sean Strickland did not deserve to win that fight. I hope Luke Barnett gets treated like he won that fight. I hope he gets a chance on a pay-per-view main card next, because he really deserves it. CB Dalloway and Francis Carmont. Man. I loved this. CB's a guy who's been flying under the radar. I mean, he had some troubles. He's had some ups and downs, but he should be on a 5-fight winning streak right now. He was robbed against Tim Boetsch, albeit for the better, because I ended up going 13-0 and making about $1,000, a little over $1,000 that night at UFC 166. But anyway, CB Dalloway, he looked fantastic. I mean, he's got a lot that he's got to work on. Obviously, he was exhausted. He got cut, he got beat up, but he grinded it out. And that's a dude who's going to be a problem for a lot of guys in this division. I think he deserves a top 10 guy next. Who that is, I don't know. I did suggest on Twitter the other day another guy who's flying under the radar, Talis Leites, who's on a 6-fight winning streak. He's 3-0 since returning to the UFC. I think that's a really good matchup, and the winner of that deserves a top 10 guy. So hopefully we get to see that next. And yeah, I guess we're not breaking down the main event yet, so I'll just stop there.
No. We are. Munoz versus Gegard. What did you think?
Did everyone broke it down?
I think so.
I don't think
Conley.
Yeah, we did.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think Alan did, didn't you?
oh, I guess I'm screwing up here. Yeah, the main event: Gegard Mousasi and Mark Munoz. Well, first off, before I get into Gegard Mousasi, I just want to say Mark Munoz is a very talented guy, and he hit his peak when he reached the number 3 position in the division. He was going to fight Chael, and that would have been like the biggest fight of his entire career. And then Weidman just ruined everything for him. And I'm not saying like, oh yeah, Weidman ruined his career. It was bound to happen once he fought someone like Weidman or someone of that caliber. But now he's been knocked out multiple times. He was dominated against Gegard Mousasi. He really didn't show much. He got a takedown, and then from there, that was it. And he was like stumbling over himself. He was telegraphing his shots. It was just a very bad performance. He looked terrible. He looked like he did not belong in there. I think Mark Munoz should retire. I don't think he has anything left to prove. I don't think he has anything left to do. He'll never win a title. He's never going to beat any of the top 5 or the top 7 in the division. He's always going to be maybe 10 in the division outside of the top 10. He's not of that caliber anymore. Now, Gegard Mousasi, on the other hand, is a guy that we need to talk a lot about, because he's someone that we're going to be hearing about a lot more, especially because Dana White absolutely loves him. And if Dana White absolutely loves you, we're going to be hearing about you a lot. Gegard Mousasi is fantastic. Technically sound, one of the most technically sound fighters in the UFC, if not the most technically sound. And his approach towards fights is incredible. I mean, you see him fight someone like Lyoto Machida. He comes out standing more straight up. He doesn't lean forward like he did. He lowered his stance. He lowered his center of gravity so he would make sure that if Mark Munoz tried to come in with a shot, he could stuff it easily, and he did. I mean, Mark was only able to get one because he shot, it was stuffed, and then he reshot, which is something you don't see a lot. And then he was able to get it, but then he ended up falling on his stomach, and Gegard was able to step over and to mount. So Gegard Mousasi is a beast, and I think he's going to be a problem for most guys in the division. I don't know if he'll ever be a champion. I don't think he can beat Weidman. Then again, I don't think anybody can beat Weidman. I don't think he could beat someone like Chael, too. But I do want to see him fight Tim Kennedy next. They seem to be going back and forth there. Tim kind of jokes with the trash talk, but maybe Gegard doesn't understand and really does want to fight him next and maybe teach him a little bit of a lesson. So it's I think that's a very intriguing matchup. And Gegard actually said something in an interview about he's very smart with his fight purse money. He doesn't spend his purse money. What he does is he actually invests it in real estate, and then he uses the money from the property. Yep. He uses the money from the properties to live off of that, and that's genius. I mean, because if you spend your purse money and you don't have anything else on the side, when you retire, you're going to have problems. So Gegard Mousasi is not only a smart fighter, he's a smart guy.
Yeah, and I heard back when he was on that crazy streak fighting in Japan for the most part, he really didn't have that grueling of a training camp, a strength and conditioning program, and now that he's really starting to dial all of it in, I mean, you can't really knock him off too much for losing to Lyoto, because he's one of the best in the world. But yeah, I'm very, very interested to see how he fares versus a top 5-6 middleweight. Saturday we did have two cards. We just broke down the one that happened in the afternoon in Berlin. We had another one, the Tough Brazil finale in Brazil, 2 hours after the first one ended. But first, we're doing a quick mini segment. I'm trying to work in the segments to sort of break things up a bit. It's a segment where I read off offensive tweets that are sent to me that forces me to block the person that sent that tweet. This segment is blocked. Alright, this week's tweet, I'm not going to name the Twitter handle because I don't want people going after anyone. But the guy's name is James, and James says, at the MMA Podcast, this Twitter is run by a bunch of faggots. Laughing my ass off. Inside info. And that was this week's blocked. Alright, let's move on. Let's move on to that Tough Brazil finale. Tough Brazil 3. It's the third one they've done. We'll start with the main card. The UFC Fight Pass. We saw Pedro Munoz defeating Matt Hobar via first round TKO. Marcos Rogerio de Lima defeating Richardson Moreira via first round KO. A couple of quick finishes there, and another quick finish 1 minute into the second round. Ricardo Abreu defeating Wagner Silva via rear naked choke. The rest of the card was on Fox Sports 1, but we still had four more prelim fights to charge through. Kevin Souza defeating the young Mark Adiva via second round TKO. Gassan Umaledov defeating Paulo Thiago via unanimous decision. Elias Silverio defeating Ernest Chavez via rear naked choke in the third round. And another lightweight fight, Rashid Magomedov defeating Rodrigo Dam. Very one-sided, 30-27 across the board, unanimous decision. I'll let you all start instead of starting it off this time. What did you guys think of the 7 fights that led off the prelims for Miocic versus Maldonado, the UFC Fight Night in Sao Paulo?
I think Ramsey would say, I don't know any of these people. I don't care. But I would say, on the other hand, I don't know any of these people, so yeah, I don't care.
Alan, yeah, this honestly was. I mean, people were saying both cards were very shallow, but this was of significantly lesser talent than the one in Berlin earlier. Alan?
I'm going to give a shout out to my boy, Markadiva. The guy took a long break from MMA, came back, looked sharp in his earlier performance this year. I think it was in Singapore or Macau, but came out there against.
He's the guy who got that upset win against that Terzian guy, the Mongolian Wolf or something, right?
Yeah. He the guy's a fucking athlete, man, and he's tough as shit. I mean, he went in there against a guy that's like twice his size in Souza, and just stood and traded with him. His counter strikes were really good. I mean, they went back and forth, man. It was like some Diego Sanchez shit going on, and his defense. He needs to work on his defense a whole lot more. You can tell that he doesn't have. He kind of looked like Katsunori Kikuno at the end of the second round whenever they called for the TKO, because he wasn't putting his hand. I mean, he was blocking, but he wasn't trying to move out of the way. He wasn't rocked. He was fine. He was, he wasn't like he was in any danger, but he just, he was absorbing the shots and wasn't doing enough to, stop him. And that's why they called for the TKO. But I think in the end, I mean, Souza should have, come out and destroyed him, but he didn't. And I think Markadiva, he took, I think, like 3-4 years off from MMA and just recently came back. I think once he gets back in there like full time and is training, and he gets in there and trains with some higher level guys now that he's in the UFC, I think he's going to come out, on the better end of the deal, and he's got a lot more room for development. The Thiago and Umalatov fight, that it was what it was. I expected Thiago to probably lose in a decision or probably get knocked out, which he almost did. But it was turn of the mill, affair. It wasn't anything special. As well, was the Chavez fight in Silverio. It was entertaining, but nothing special. And then I didn't even watch the Rodrigo Dam fight. I have a personal vendetta against Dam, so I refuse to watch any of his fights.
Hey, Alan.
What's
Alan, real quick. I have never seen two sloths fight in the wild, but I did get to see Ghassan Umalatov fight Paulo Thiago. So I have watched two sloths fight in the wild, actually. Did you see that fight? That was absolutely ridiculous.
I think the deal was that Umalatov hit him so hard and almost knocked him out that Thiago definitely slowed down and was not able to throw to his normal speed the rest of the fight. That was kind of funny, but it was terrible.
That was one of the least entertaining fights I've seen in my entire life. A quick note on Markadiva. Beat the Wild Wolf in Terzian. He was plus 350 in that fight, was plus 270 against Souza, and wasn't able to pull off the win. Big underdog in both of those fights. Ross Finkelstein, what did you think of the prelims at the Tough Brazil 3 finale in Sao Paulo?
Well, let's start with the Fight Pass prelims. Why not? Because everyone loves Fight Pass. Really, I just want to point out specifically one guy on the Fight Pass prelims, and that was the first fight of the night, Pedro Munoz. Not a lot of people were talking about him going into this, and that's because his momentum was kind of derailed with his loss to Rafael Assunção on very short notice against the guy who's basically the number 2 or number 3 or number 4, top 4 bantamweight in the world, the guy who beat the current champion, albeit it was kind of a robbery, but still he beat the current champion, has a victory over him. So he kind of had his momentum derailed, Pedro Munoz, by losing to Assunção. He went into that fight 10-0. That being said, he came in here and looked phenomenal. He finished Matt Hobar really quickly, within 3 minutes. His striking looked great, and this is a guy who comes from a jiu-jitsu background. This is a guy who's a really, really good grappler. and his striking looked great. He's a great striker too. His striking is really making strides. He's training at Black House. I think Pedro Munoz is going to fight for the UFC Bantamweight Championship one day, and you can quote me on that. He still has a lot of room to improve. He's still very young in this game. He's only like 28 years old or something. So big things in Pedro Munoz's future. And the other guy I wanted to point out, actually, I'll point out both guys. Demente, he's a good prospect. You know, he's training over at the Van Gym. Maybe leave there if you want to do something with your career and not, you know, fail a drug test or anything like that. But Demente is, as we know, a fantastic grappler, a world champion grappler, and also a fairly good striker too. So we could see big things out of him in the middleweight division. I still think he has so much he's got to do, but yeah, look out for him. And then there was the other dude, the heavyweight guy that Chael coached. I forgot his name, and he looked awesome. He got a quick, like, 10, 15-second knockout. He said he intends to drop to 205, which is where he fits in. So there's another guy who looked pretty damn good in his UFC debut. Fox Sports 1, Kevin Souza and Mark Adiva. I expected more out of Kevin Souza. You know, people were touting him up big. He was one of the big prospects that I've seen around the net, and I've seen some of his fights. He's a really good striker. I don't know what the hell happened. He just kind of went out there and got into a slugfest and got hurt, but ultimately came away with the victory. I mean, he's lucky that it was kind of stopped a little early. But that being said, Mark Adiva didn't really do anything, so what are you supposed to do? You got to stop the fight if the guy's not doing anything. He's got to defend himself and show that he's trying to fight back in some way and improve his position, and all he was doing was just circling against the fence while getting chased down and hit. So Kevin Souza, you got a lot to do if you want to have a high stock in my brain. Ghassan Umalatov and fucking Paulo Tiago. I don't want to talk about it because it...
The sloths.
Yeah, 2 sloths in the wild. Not fun. I fell asleep almost. I really did. Elias Silverio, he fought here. He fought in Ring of Combat. He actually has a split decision win over one of the guys we have at Power MMA, Pat DeFranco. He's very, very good. He's very, very good. I think he's a guy who could break into the top 15. He's 11-0 now. He's a good grappler. He's a good striker. There are holes in his game. I want to see him improve his wrestling a little bit. But I do think we could see Elias Silverio's name in a top 15 ranking within the next year or so. And then the headliner of the prelims, the guy who really deserves the credit, Rashid Magomedov, 17-1, 18-1 now, I believe. He's on a crazy 10 or 11 fight winning streak now. Sure, he's got a ton of decision wins. He's not the most entertaining fighter to watch, but he gets the job done, and he's a problem for most guys. He's training at American Top Team, which is arguably the best mixed martial arts camp in the world today. He's down in Coconut Creek. And he's just one of these crafty Russians. I mean, we've got these freaking Chechens and Dagestanians and all these Russians making their invasion into the UFC, and they're all so technically sound too. That's the great thing about it. I mean, next week we have Ali Bagotinov fighting for the UFC flyweight championship, and he hasn't even been in the UFC for over a year. I mean, he signed his UFC contract maybe a year ago, and he's fighting for the world title already. So these Russians are crazy. Look out for them. They're gonna really take over the UFC.
It's actually hard to bet against someone that has an Ov or a V at the end of their name. It's really hard to bet against them.
All of these guys are just so successful from guys who are pretty close to a title shot, like Nurmagomedov and Bagatinov, guys like Amagov, We saw Magomedov on this card. I think we saw another similar name on the Berlin card. Let me go back and check. I think another guy named Magomedov. Wow. These Russians are taking the UFC by storm. I guess we'll move on to the main card. I just texted Ninja. It sounds like he's having a little bit of issue getting back on the call. So follow him at the Gracie Ninja. I don't know if he'll be back on the show. A featherweight fight, the first fight on the main card on Fox Sports 1. Robbie Peralta defeating Hani Jason via split decision, 29-28. 27-30, and then 30-27. You've always got to wonder when two different judges score the fight 27-30 and 30-27 in the opposite way. It's perplexing. We got to get better judging in, people, whether it's in Vegas or Brazil, wherever. Judging in this sport is one of the biggest problems. A welterweight fight between Damian Maia, who dominated Alexander Yakovlev, didn't get the finish like a lot of people thought he would, but ended up winning 30-27 across the board. Warley Alves defeating Marcio Alexandre Jr. via technical submission, guillotine choke, choked him unconscious 25 seconds into the third round, winning the Tough Brazil 3 middleweight championship. And the Tough Brazil 3 heavyweight championship was won by Antonio Carlos Jr. I think it's that shoe face guy over Vitor Miranda. Unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. And in the main event, it was the most anticlimactic way you could end a day of 22, 23 UFC fights. A fight that a lot of people were saying probably shouldn't have even been commissioned. We got a light heavyweight in Maldonado taking on Miocic. Miocic was a huge favorite and went in there and stomped him out in 35 seconds. Quickly, I don't know if anyone expected it to be that quick, but still stomped him out quick. It was exactly what we all thought would happen. Alan, what did you think of these 5 fights? And of course, the Tough Brazil 3 championships mixed in there.
I was really proud of the guys from Team Sun and Vitor Miranda. Went out there, fought his heart out, and then Warley Alves. He looked phenomenal. I mean, when the guy cuts down to 170, Jesus Christ, he's gonna be a killer. Like Chael said, the guy can go in there and fight for fight championship caliber guys. I don't want to see that happen right away. Obviously, sometimes the boss man overstates things a little bit. I want to see him go in there, put in his time, build his way up, fight some bums like Rory McDonald and Tyrone Woodley. I'm just joking, they're not bums, but I want to see him fight some guys, and then, build his way up. But I was super, super impressed with his performance. His cardio just looked on point, and, don't have much to say for the main event. It was very anticlimactic, and it was God, I just forget that it happened, man.
Yo, Alan, I like how you solely called Woodley a bum just because Yao's probably going to listen back and you want to troll him, calling him a bum, you son of a bitch. Conley, what did you think of this 5-fight main card on Fox Sports 1?
Yeah, actually, the Peralta and Jason fight was pretty cool. They were going back and forth, I thought Jason won, but, with those judges being, from boxing backgrounds, most of them, they're not really counting strikes. Some of them even, I've heard from other podcasts that, they ask the other judges, hey, what's going on? So there definitely needs to be some reform as far as the judging goes to be at least a little bit more professional, but entertaining fight nonetheless. Peralta, it's a good win for Peralta over Hani Jason. I think Hani Jason broke his hand either in the fight or after the fight. Who knows? It could have been another wall. You don't know. But as far as Damian Maia and Yakoviv. I'm pretty sure that you could have bet about $1 million that you didn't have on Damian Maia for this fight. And for some weird reason, if you lost, you could just throw yourself in front of Stipe Miocic for 35 seconds. Because Damian Maia is at a level that not many people can contest with. I mean, he is a world champion, and he goes in there and he dominates people under his level. So it was very apparent that Yakoviv was under his level, and it was pretty much a canned fight, pretty much a guaranteed fight. And if you would have bet enough, you'd have gotten a pretty decent return on your investment. I can't really say too much about Warlley Alves. He is just very impressive. He was impressive on the show. I can, poor Mauricio Alexandre Jr., they call him Lyoto, but he doesn't look anything like Lyoto, poor guy. But, I mean, you know, maybe he can refine his fighting spirit and go out there and kind of fine-tune his skills to be more of that karate style. You know, you see those guys from the karate background, and you compare him to Lyoto Machida mainly because of the stance that they fight in. But if you look at Lyoto Machida, you can tell he's at a different level than all those. I mean, it's night and day difference. His strikes, I mean, weren't even compared to Lyoto's. But I could see Warlley fighting Kelvin Gastelum probably within the next maybe year and a half for a top 10 or maybe like a top 7 position. Warlley's just really that good, and you know, I believe that he can make that weight, you know, down. I think they both fought at welterweight, so no, they fought at middleweight, but I think they can both go down to welterweight. A lot of those tough guys on Tough Brazil really probably won't fight at that weight class that they can.
Yeah, Warlley
go down.
Warlley did. He before he even did the Ultimate Fighter, he was a 170.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So we'll see him in that division. Hopefully, we'll see him against Kelvin, which I think would be an amazing fight. They have similarities as far as their counter wrestling goes and their striking. So I think that would definitely be a really good fight. I can see them in the top 10 fairly soon. As far as Vitor and Antonio, you know, Antonio just has that youth, and Vitor, I think, you know, he just couldn't keep up with them. I called, you know, Carlos Jr. To win this fight. You know, it was pretty cut and dry fight. You know, he did enough to win. Didn't make a lot of fans after the fight, I don't think. I mean, it wasn't that exciting of a fight, in my opinion. But he did enough to get the W. So, I mean, you have to hand it to him for that. Stipe Miocic and Fabio Maldonado. I actually bet $1 on Fabio Maldonado because that $3.50 was really worth it for me. But Stipe Miocic, I mean, this is why we have weight divisions. Fabio, if he really got with it, he could probably go down to middleweight. He's not that big of a guy. A lot of people, I think, were expecting this fight to be longer because Fabio's that indestructible. He's that indestructible against light heavyweights, like against Glover. He took all of Glover's best shots, and he kept going. But when you add those extra pounds on there of pure muscle and mass and athleticism, like Miocic, he used to play baseball, so I mean, his punches have to be at a different level than any of the light heavyweights. I'd be surprised if even Jon Jones could compete, you know, at the heavyweight level, you know. But Stipe Miocic, I mean, he did what he needed to do. He needed to get a quick finish to just prove that he belongs in that top 10 of the heavyweight division, which is honestly a pretty shallow division right now. But I think he still needs to be promoting himself to get that JDS fight. I think he's gonna. That fight was really gonna propel him to the top of the division, and this Maldonado fight just didn't do it. You know, I mean, yeah, it was there to save the card. Bless, little Fabio, with his little comb over and stuff and bleached hair and gut punches. But yeah, he really didn't have a chance, poor guy. But all around, it was an okay card. It definitely tested our endurance as far as fight fans go. It was a long day of fights, but by the end of it, I felt okay. Watching it all.
Break down the main card for us, Ross.
Okay, Jake, I shall.
All
the
right,
main
Ross.
card. You wish you had this voice, like I said. Yeah, we can go back and forth all day. We can do this. I can get as low as possible. I can get as low. All right. We're creeping out the viewers, Jake. Let's get back to the main card. Robbie Peralta and Hani Jason. I don't know if it was a robbery. It probably was. It was a close fight. Robbie Peralta kind of surprised everyone here. And I think he really deserves kind of a step up. I think he's won like 13 of his last 14 or something like that. Or like 9 of his last 10. Some crazy thing like that. So yeah, let's get a step up in competition for Robbie Peralta. But I don't really want to talk about the fight itself here. I want to talk about the evolution of Hani Jason and how he started as a wholesome, handsome young man on The Ultimate Fighter and how he slowly turned into a crazy-looking hermaphrodite. I don't get it. I don't get the bleach blonde hair. I don't get the goatee. I don't get any of it. Why is he doing it? I mean, he tried like a mohawk once. What's he doing? He's like completely ruining his look, and it's just not a good. I mean, he had a good thing going with the Jason mask and all that, and now he just looks like a predator. I mean, I wouldn't want my kid near him.
It is a fact that Ronnie Jason used to be black.
Probably.
There you go.
That is news to me. I've never heard that before. Damian Maia and Alexander Yakovlev. I'm not surprised. I don't think anybody is. Damian Maia is Damian Maia, and this Yakovlev guy is just, middle of the pack in the welterweight division, maybe. He's got a victory over Paul Daly. That's what ultimately got him signed. But he really doesn't have much in his toolbox. Yeah, he was able to maybe get 1 or 2 things going there, but he's just not of that caliber yet. He should stick to the rap videos. I was very pleased and entertained by watching them. I think he has a career in rap, and that's completely sarcastic. Moving on, Warlley Alves and Lyoto. Warlley has a future, man. Warlley is a guy who's going to make waves in the UFC's welterweight division when he drops down, because he is going to drop down. He did win the middleweight Ultimate Fighter, and he could fight at middleweight, but he is better suited for welterweight. Chael Sonnen has been touting him up big time. He's been saying that this guy could beat Chris Weidman or Johnny Hendricks today. I don't know if that's the truth. I don't believe he can beat either one of those guys right now, but I believe he very well could in the future. Maybe especially Johnny Hendricks, close through his size there. Warlley is very talented. He's a very good striker. He's a very good grappler. He has great cardio. He's actually a solid wrestler too. He has it all. He really does. He's the total package, and he just obliterated the competition on The Ultimate Fighter. I mean, no one can contend with him. He just dominated everyone, ran through the Ultimate Fighter house, ran through Lyoto. He will be something in the UFC welterweight division. He will be top 15 within the next 10 months, 11 months maybe. The heavyweight fight, Shoeface and Vitor Miranda. I don't know what to think of it. I picked Vitor to win the fight. I thought his striking experience would be the edge, and just his overall experience would be the edge. But Antonio Carlos Jr. is a training partner of Junior Dos Santos. He's a fantastic grappler. In addition to that, he's a great boxer too. And he was able to neutralize the game of Vitor Miranda. So credit to Shoeface. And he's going to drop down to 205, which is where he's supposed to be. And I think maybe he can do something at 205. I don't think he'd ever do anything at heavyweight, but 205 he could do something.
I was really I really quickly wanted to say I forgot to mention when I was breaking down the card. When I first read that the guy's name was Antonio Shoeface, I was sure it was just a shitty translation of Antonio Bigfoot Silva. I was like, all right, someone just wrote Bigfoot and it got translated shittily into Shoeface, and it wasn't until like literally the fight was going on, I was like, oh wait, his name is actually Shoeface. What the fuck?
I thought he had more of a horse quality to him. Like maybe his like great aunt or maybe great uncle could have been a horse.
His great aunt was a shoe. Sorry, Ross. Go ahead. Break down the main event for us.
The main event. Let's get to the main event. What the fuck was this? Why was this booked? Whoever thought of this, I don't know. Wow. Stipe Miocic comes out, throws literally one punch, and hurts him immediately. Fabio backs into the cage, hits the cage, and Stipe stops. Why? I don't know. It was weird. And then they kind of stand there for a second, and then he puts him out with one punch just a couple seconds later. It was the weirdest thing ever. It was completely expected. Fabio was completely undersized. He should not be fighting at heavyweight. He took this fight on short notice. Yeah, I really don't know why this fight was booked. Stipe Miocic, if he's going to be a contender, we got to find out now. Match him up with JDS, the guy he was supposed to fight originally. That is the fight to book. I think we could very well see an unconscious Stipe Miocic in that fight. I don't think he can overcome that barrier, but he does deserve it. He's beaten everyone else except for Stefan Struve, and he's on this 3-fight streak now. He destroyed Big Country, outclassed him, outboxed him. He destroyed Gabriel Gonzaga, and now he just knocked out Fabio Maldonado, which is a step down in competition. But it's time to give him a big step up. And if he can beat JDS, that's a title shot in his future.
Hell yeah. A beautiful breakdown of Stipe versus Fabio. And I think that just about does it for breaking down last Saturday's cards. So let's get straight into it, people. Let's do the news. Hell yeah, and the saga keeps going on between Wanderlei Silva. It was almost like all of us knew the fight was never going to happen because Wanderlei Silva is a super flake. So he ran last week. We talked about him running out on his drug test, essentially failing it, getting booted from the fight against Chael. Vitor subs in for him. Dana saying he might not fight in the UFC again, and apparently he was removed from all the PR events at Tough Brazil 3 finale in Sao Paulo, and the UFC still wanted him to be there, but he wasn't going to be doing anything PR related. So the guy just didn't show up. He had his training partners fighting. He had his teammates fighting. You know, he's the coach of Team Wanderlei, and it's the Tough Brazil 3 finale. And I think maybe the first time we've seen in Tough, one of the coaches doesn't show up at the finale because he's at a bar in Curitiba, just like unannounced, just drinking and taking pics with fans and stuff. This is insane. I do want to touch on the Vitor thing in a little bit. We won't touch on that now, though. But what do you make of all this stuff about Wand? Is he mentally ill? Like, honestly, he's, you know, it, like 9 times out of 10, if I'm asking that, I'm sort of asking it in a sarcastic light, but I'm being serious. Is he actually mentally ill? Is he, you know, I mean, Chael said he was drinking a shitload in Brazil, and it's all pretty disconcerting from a guy who's a legend of mixed martial arts, used to be one of my favorite fighters. What do you make of all this, and do you think we ever see Wanderlei Silva fight in the UFC again, Alan?
Jake, let me ask you a
Alan.
question. If you had to go face to face, toe to toe with the man Chael Sonnen at the press conference at UFC 173 to promote UFC 175, and when you looked into the eyes of the great one, of the gangster, and you realized that this man was going to beat the shit out of you in approximately 1 month, would you not also run from your drug test? Would you not also fail to submit your paperwork to get a license to fight for that fight and then use that as an excuse? Would you not also run screaming and crying like a little bitch from the arena and run to the nearest bar, grab the most shots that you could handle, and just start downing them so that you could forget this nightmare that is Chael Sonnen?
Praise his name.
What else did you expect? Wanderlei. I just want to say shout out to Wanderlei. I'm going to burn your fucking gym down in Vegas.
Oh my God. Razor?
Putting yourself in Dana's shoes, okay? You spend all this money hyping up a fight. How long was the Tough Brazil season? Like a few months? You spend all that time hyping up a fight, and your guy runs from these drug test dudes. All right. My favorite part of the Tough Brazil finale was when they mentioned Chael's name and the crowd just yelled in excitement and just love for this guy that they used to hate and threaten to kill. And when they mentioned Wanderlei's name, I don't know if you noticed this, but they were booing him. They hated him. And that, to me, there doesn't have to be a fight later, because Chael, he did it without even throwing a punch. I mean, he won over that country. The country loves him now. It'd be interesting. I guess Ramses has ties to that fan club in Brazil. It'd be interesting how many more members that, they have, compared to when, before the Tough Brazil, happened. Because I'm sure it increased like by a large margin. I mean, it's just amazing to see. And, if I was Dana, yeah, I'd be pissed at Wanderlei. Like, he'd just be one of those guys that, all right, he's lost, he's gone, whatever. Just let's move on. I can't think about this guy anymore. And that's it.
Take it home for us, Ross, about this Wanderlei Silva shit.
Oh my God, what is wrong with Wanderlei Silva? Because there's something wrong with him. First of all, is anyone surprised that he's out? No one's surprised that he's out. Showing up at a bar in Curitiba kind of makes me think that he's got some sort of substance abuse problems. He was drinking on The Ultimate Fighter. He was never training. He was at a bar in Brazil instead of going to the Tough finale. I don't know. There's an issue here.
And I'm looking now. The event was in Sao Paulo. He was at a bar in Curitiba, 6 hours away. It wasn't like he was like around the corner from where it was going on. He was a good 6 hours from where they were putting on this event.
I'm surprised he was even that close.
Yeah, we all know he lives in Vegas. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Ross?
Yes, I was actually still speaking when you interrupted
Sorry,
me.
buddy. I'm sorry about interrupting you.
Will he fight in the UFC again? If I had to guess, no. I don't think Wanderlei Silva will ever fight again. He blatantly walked out on a surprise drug test. Basically said, nope, I can't pass that test, so I'm not going to take it. I'm going to go watch Henderson Brown fight. He's just not able to do this job anymore. He's got something wrong with him. He needs to go seek help. He needs to get out of this. He needs to get out of the spotlight. He'll never get licensed because Nevada won't license him after the shit he pulled. Dana's pissed at him. Lorenzo's pissed at him. He's lucky he still has a job. I don't think we ever see him fight again.
And talking about licenses, that brings us to our next point. Vitor Belfort, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, to announce his drug test result June 17th, which is kind of fucking crazy if you think about it. We're a month out from, it's June 5th now, so we are exactly 1 month out from UFC 175. We're going to see Sonnen versus Belfort, apparently. And the NSAC apparently has his drug test result, but they're going to sit on it for 2 weeks for no apparent reason. Honestly, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but Ramses and I sort of made the point last night, June 17th, the day the UFC game comes out, and everyone's going to be paying attention to that instead of what this ruling is. But I don't know, the UFC, the state athletic commission might be trying to get a slick one past us, because Ross made an excellent point last night that there is the chance that Vitor might get licensed after it's found that he failed a drug test, which would be an abomination, not just for, being a fan of Chael Sonnen, but for being a fan of the sport. Like, a guy fails a drug test and he just doesn't get punished. What? But, that's going to be June 17th, and they will announce the result of the drug test. Do you think he'll still fight Chael? Do you think? I mean, I'm sure all of us think he failed a test, because that seems like a given at this point. Alan, what are your thoughts on the Vitor madness?
To be honest, man, I was hearing rumblings about people saying that what he failed the test for was like him being on testosterone, and they're probably gonna chalk it up to it was too early. He wasn't able to cycle off of it early enough, and that some of the remnants were still in his system, and they're calling it inconclusive. And they're going to make some excuses. They're going to give him a license. Yes, I do think it's an abomination. The same reason, why Wanderlei probably will fight in the UFC again. Because, when it comes down to the mighty dollar, they're going to let these guys fight. They're not going to, they'll punish the small guys. They'll punish, the guy making $8,000 to show 8 to win. They'll punish that guy, kick him out of the UFC, do whatever they got to do. Like Will Chope, but they're not going to punish these big guys. They're going to keep them around. They're not going to have to suffer the same type of consequences for, the transgressions that they do. And yeah, I think we will see Vitor Belfort get defeated by Chael Sonnen via rear naked choke in the second round in Las Vegas, and then Chael Sonnen will call out the winner of Machida. Well, he'll probably call out Chris Weidman, because we all know Chris Weidman's going to whip Machida's ass. And Chael's going to make his speech. It's going to be awesome. I'll be there live with all of you guys, and it'll be glory and honor.
Christopher Weidman, I'm coming for you, buddy. Razor, what do you think of this Vitor? What did you think of all this Vitor wildness?
I think the stars and the planets and the moon and the suns have all aligned for this moment for Chael. Like, okay, Vitor, yeah, he's had a shady past. He is emotional and motivated enough to get past this little hurdle in his way, and get to that fight with Chael. It's as big for him as it is for Chael, because, I mean, as far as middleweights go, Chael has been the number one contender twice, and, after that first fight with Silva, he just walked through, the next two guys. I guess you could say the Bisping one was close, but in my eyes, it really wasn't. I think Chael had that, dominant the whole time. But I think this is Chael's time to get one over. I think if anyone can beat Vitor off of testosterone, it's Chael Sonnen. And, this is it for him. Other than this, it's Kung Lee and Rich Franklin fights, I guess. But I think he can do it. I really have faith in Chael that much to where, I think as long as he doesn't get distracted with all of the media and all the shows that he has and, I'm sure he's constantly being bothered by people. If he really focuses and if he really wants it, he can win this fight. So, as far as the Vitor thing, I don't think it's going to be a problem. But, I mean, we'll see on, June 17th? So, yeah.
Jake. Vitor Belfort. Oh, my God. Will he get licensed? Will he fight Chael Sonnen? Part of me I hope he does, in the sense that I don't want Chael to not have an opponent on July 5th, because I very much am looking forward to seeing Chael fight in person and seeing Chael just period. But on the flip side, I can only hope that the Nevada State Athletic Commission is competent enough to not give a license to Vitor Belfort. Vitor Belfort failed his drug test. There's no way around it. Vitor Belfort failed his drug test, and it's pretty clear. And to have a defense of, oh well, we had a TRT treatment literally the day of, and because of it my levels were high and it's inconclusive. No, that's called bullshit. He didn't have a TRT treatment the day of, and his levels weren't inconclusive. His levels were high. The reason why they give you that random test is to make sure that your levels aren't high. They're supposed to be in the norm. His levels were not in the norm. They were way above the norm, which showed cheating. He thought he could cycle off of it, couldn't, and ultimately bit the bullet. Now he's got to face the consequences. I really hope, for the sake of the future of mixed martial arts and the sake of the future of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and hopefully this new change that we're seeing at the Athletic Commission, and seeing, kind of a reform, judging's getting better, refereeing's getting better, the decisions they're making getting better, eliminating TRT as a whole because of the problems that it caused. These are things that are improvements. I only hope that they are competent enough to not grant a license to a guy who failed his drug test, and instead issue him a suspension for failing his drug test. Not a suspension because he doesn't have a license, so you can't suspend someone who doesn't have a license. But what they can do is they can deny him the license and add a condition that he cannot reapply until this date, which is usually with guys who failed, who have elevated testosterone levels. It starts usually 9 months, but Vitor is a repeat offender. Vitor tested positive in Nevada in 2007, and that is incredibly relevant here. 2007 or 2006, I'm not quite sure which year. It was after the Dan Henderson fight. That is very, very, very important here, because you get one offense, all right, it's kind of like a slap on the wrist. We'll give you like a 9-month suspension. 9 months, you can apply for your license. You fail twice, they're going to throw the book at you. Like I've said plenty of times over and over again, I only hope for the future of mixed martial arts and the future of the commission and the upward change that we're having, that they don't grant him a license.
Simple enough. Yeah, it's they made a step in the right direction in, choosing what they chose to do with TRT, and I definitely think it would be a step backwards if pardon me, if they licensed them for the fight. I guess let's do the 10 solid seconds of sports, where we spend 10 seconds to talk about all sports, not MMA related. LA Kings take a 1-0 lead in the New York Rangers after winning the first game of the series tonight in overtime. Game 1 of the NBA Finals tip off tomorrow night as the Heat looked out to defeat the Spurs in their third straight title. World Cup getting ready to begin as the world's highest tournament facilities who win the biggest round of sports. Once you get tripped up in the 10 solid seconds of sports, there's no coming back. Another saga we've got to talk about. A lot of sagas going on. The Jon Jones one. At first, people thought he wasn't choosing to extend his contract. He has 5 fights left, but apparently he doesn't want to fight Gustafsson next. He wants to fight Cormier next. He's, put putting videos out saying, "Oh, I beat Gus whether it was close or not, and you like it or not, and since when am I a coward? Because Cormier's an Olympic wrestler and Strikeforce champion. It's my career, not yours." Which I just wish he could fully embrace the heel role, because that like videos like that really show you how much it bugs him. Do you blame Jones in all of this? Will Jones fight Gustafsson next? I think that's probably the likely case. Will he fight Cormier next? Will we end up seeing Gustafsson versus Cormier for an interim belt if he won't fight Gus like Dana threatened? This is all fucking madness. Alan, what do you make of this Jon Jones craziness?
Jon Jones. Nothing but a bag of bones. I can't call him a coward because the man goes into the octagon and puts it all on the line. He's always goes out there, puts on a show, fights big guys, big names, delivers. He lost the fight to Gustafsson. It's a joke that he won't fight Alexander Gustafsson. It makes absolutely no sense why he wants to fight Daniel Cormier. The best guy that Daniel Cormier has fought is Dan Henderson. As far as light heavyweight, I know he's done a lot of damage at heavyweight, and I think that's deserving of a title shot. But Gustafsson has proven that he deserves it. Gustafsson is the marquee matchup, man. Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier, yeah, it's a big fight. You got an Olympic, undefeated fighter who's dominated heavyweights coming in here at 205 and, going to face Jon Jones. A lot of people think that Cormier can beat him, but Alexander Gustafsson and Jon Jones put on the fight of the year of 2013, and to not have that rematch right now, because if you don't do it now, it possibly will never happen, is a mistake. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose fans. It's a missed opportunity to, it's not, he was saying it's his career. Well, guess what? If it's your career and you're so concerned with your career, take the big fight, make the big money. I mean, go out there and beat Gustafsson again. It was such a close fight that, it could have been a draw. It's just silly that he won't take this fight, and then he's acting like a child. And, once again, we see in the public that Jon Jones, he's not a coward, but he is a fucking child. He acts like a little baby.
Didn't he moon you?
Brat. Yes, he mooned all of us and Chael Sonnen's entire coaching staff in the hotel lobby.
And his mom, right?
Yeah, everybody. There was lots of females in there, man, with their kids. And he was standing on the second floor of the hotel where the glass, at the fighter level where all the fighters were sparring and doing all their stuff. And he was about to come down the elevators, and there's this big, clear glass, window. And he just fucking drops trowel, bends all the way over, and, basically, showing from ass to his, thighs, and does that to, like, women. It's just disrespectful. I mean, the dude he's a mental fucking midget. He called Chael Sonnen a mental midget. He's a fucking mental midget. I hate to use so much profanity, but whenever I talk about Jon Jones, it's just, he sucks it out of me because he doesn't deserve anything better. He's not a champion. If you're a champion, you will fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, sign on the dotted line, Jon Jones, or get to the back of the fucking line.
And it's so wild that the same guy who pulled out an incredible 4th and 5th round against Gustafsson somehow doesn't have the mental, I don't know what the word is, but the guy just does not act correctly out of the cage, and it's frankly why most fans have gone from liking him to hating him. It's, I don't know, it's sort of ridiculous here. But Razor, what do you make of the Jon Jones thing? Who do you think he'll end up fighting next?
I'm calling it right now, guys. Jon Jones is the next Michael Jackson, not greatness wise, but insanity wise. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up looking like Frank Mir, in a few years. One thing, it's funny that he forgets, a true champion takes fights on short notice. Guess how he got the title in the first place? Shogun Rua took that fight after Rashad Evans, got out of the fight. So Jon Jones, Shogun Rua was man enough to take that fight without all this drama. He was just going to take it. And yeah, he lost. Jones was better. But you know what? I have a lot more respect, or respect, as the Brazilians would say, for Shogun Rua as a champion than Jon Jones right now, because it seems like he's just playing this little media game and he's trying to get these two puppets to fight themselves. He feels like he's a puppet master, but he's so gone in his mind that, he could have been, this guy, Jon Jones, he could have been such a hero. I mean, he could, remember back before he won the title, he was praising Jesus and whatever, your faith is, he was doing all that. And he could have been such a hero, and he could have been inspiring people all this time, like he probably should have been, because he is that great of an athlete. But he just turned all of that greatness into complete shit for what he's doing outside the cage. And you know what? People are reacting to it, and you reap what you sow. And Jon Jones is doing just that. He's losing. He has a lot of fans that are against him. He might, and you know what? If he's in it for the money, like Floyd Mayweather is, like turning heel, that's fine. But during the interviews and everything, he tries to be that nice guy, but he's not. Jon Jones, be yourself. A lot more people will like you, and a lot more people respect you if you're just yourself and just be a complete prick like you really are. And that's pretty much all I have, as far as Jon Jones goes.
Hell yeah, Ross.
Jon Jones, the absolute biggest piece of shit that has a championship belt in the world.
Praises.
I don't understand it. I don't understand what he's trying to do. I don't understand why he's looking for like bad publicity all the time. And I mean, first of all, Gustafsson's the number one contender. Gustafsson beat your fucking ass. Gustafsson made you bleed your own blood. Gustafsson took you down. Gustafsson punched you in the face a lot. And Gustafsson, in my opinion, beat you. Now, the judges gave you a victory, and a lot of people thought you won the fight, and it was a very close fight. But that guy gave you your toughest fight ever. So he deserves another shot, because he arguably won that fight. And if a guy arguably wins the fight, well, he deserves another shot. Alexander Gustafsson should have gotten a rematch immediately, but he didn't. So he went out and he destroyed Jimmy Manuwa. Then he deserves the rematch. He made it look easy. It's ignorance. He's scared. He doesn't want to fight Gustafsson because Gustafsson beat the fuck out of him, and he doesn't want to experience that again. So he wants to fight DC because DC's a new challenge. He's someone that's smaller than him, and maybe he can implement his game plan and use his reach and his length to beat him. Gustafsson, he can't do that. So he's scared because he couldn't take him down until the fifth round when they were both tired as shit. Gustafsson a little more tired. That was the only time he could get him down, and he couldn't keep him down. So he's terrified of Alexander Gustafsson. That being said, for the UFC to come out, more specifically Dana White, more specifically vodka, more specifically Dana White, to come out and openly trash your champion. I mean, this is the guy you've been touting now for the last week since Hennenbrow lost. As the number one pound-for-pound fighter. I mean, if you're going to call this guy the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world, he's ranked number one on your rankings. I mean, consensus, most people pretty much unanimously have him as the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. You're going to bash him. You're going to make him look weak. You're going to say that he's scared. I mean, and the constant bullshit that's coming out of his mouth too, Dana. I mean, he says in Berlin, yeah, we're the holdup is we're doing a new deal with him. We're doing a new deal with Jon Jones. Then he fucking comes out the next fucking day when they put out that interview on UFC.com, the download, and it's them talking to Dana, and he's fucking talking about how he wants to fight Cormier instead of Gustafsson. He says, just to be clear, we're not doing a new deal with Jon Jones. We're not negotiating a contract. Well, then what the fuck were you talking about, you stupid... I'm not...
Wait, Ross. Dude, okay, wait. Put yourself in Dana White's shoes, okay? Back since after the Gustafsson fight, okay? He has had Jones-Gustafsson 2 in his mind for 2014. We have the EA game coming out, launching. The demo has Gustafsson and Jones. Okay, from a business stance... what's that?
The cover too is Jones and Gus on it.
Yeah, the cover too. I mean, you're hyping this fight for this year, okay? And for Jones to go out and do something so cowardly, if I were Dana White in his shoes, Dana White to me held back because, it's obvious that there was so much hype around this fight for this year. To make the video game successful. It was going to be the biggest fight of the year. And for Jones to do something like this, that's borderline like any other person that wasn't a champion that put that much money and that much investment would have gotten fired. Hands down easily. But since it's Jones, he's just, I think he's holding back a lot. I'm surprised that Dana didn't go off on Jones even more because I definitely would have. I'm sure you would have too, with everything that you've invested into that one product for that 1 year being Jones versus Gustafsson.
Well, the way I see it, all anger aside, Dana White wants what he wants. It's obvious he wants Jones Gustafsson too. But you can't publicly come out and trash your champion, no matter what the circumstances. You can't come out and say, "Oh, he's scared to fight." That is.
What about the WWE?
Hold on, that is making your champion look weak. That's a totally different scenario. That world is crazy.
But the WWE is real.
The thing. Everyone's interrupting me tonight. I can't even get a word out.
What?
I'm sorry, Ross.
I'll just give the silent treatment for the rest of the show. Just do it like this. No, I can speak now. Okay. I totally forgot what I was going to say at this point. So just continue. Forget it. Go.
No. Well, the one thing that I love about Dana is that he's real, and trashing your champion when everyone else is trashing him, you raise that flag, Dana. Go ahead, man. Because I'm right there with you. Dana's right. Jones is a coward for not taking that fight when it has been preemptively planned that whole time. I love you, Ross, but I really sympathize with Dana on this one.
Look, I'm really gonna come in here and back up my boy Ross, man. Dana White I've always been a fan of him, but lately, the last couple of months, he has continuously just fallen more and more off the back of the truck. He's hit rock bottom. You can tell he's completely doped up with vodka and all these other alcohol that he's drinking, and I don't know what's wrong with him. He should be happy. He's a billionaire. He's got more money than Vince McMahon. He's in charge of the UFC, but trash talking your champion. Can't do that. He's always trash talking grapplers, talking shit about people for wrestling, and it's just getting ridiculous. His performance on The Ultimate Fighter this last season, it's just exponentially shown how much more out there that he's gotten. If you don't go in there and knock each other out, then he hates you. He's turned into a bipolar woman. It's scary. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Hopefully, we'll get our wish and Chael will take over.
Ross, I'll let you get the final word in before we move on.
I started a point and then I stopped it. This is a business, and what you want and what is best for business will always be two different things. What Dana White wants is not what's best for business. What Dana White wants is to just say whatever the hell he's thinking, whatever's on his mind to the public. He says shit that he doesn't even know what he's talking about. He spoke out of his ass when he was talking about Chael and Wanderlei in Berlin. He's like, yeah, no, that fight's at 185, when he didn't. I mean, Chael and Vitor, I'm sorry. He didn't even negotiate that fight. I mean, all of Vitor's fights are handled by Lorenzo, because Lorenzo loves Vitor. He's a huge Vitor mark. So Lorenzo handles all the Vitor fights. Dana didn't know what the fuck he was talking about when he said, oh yeah, it's at 185. No, it's at 205. Dana White just says shit and it just flies out, and he doesn't filter it, and that's bad. That's why Lorenzo is better fit to be the face of the company and the guy that's speaking in the spotlight, because he can be PC and he can be a businessman, and he knows what's best for business. He knows what you have to say. You can't just come out and say, yeah, he doesn't want to fight him. He's not accepting it. Fuck him. We'll strip him and make a new. But no, that's bad. You negotiate, and when it gets to a point where the guy won't budge, then you take action. But until that point, when you're only a week in, I mean, they've been setting this up from the beginning. Dana set this whole thing up from the beginning with the saying of, we offer the fight to Gustafsson. Now let's see what happens. Like, no, don't. You announce a fight when it's fully booked, not when it's half booked. You don't announce a fight when one guy signs, not the other. You announce it when it's fully booked. This is all bad business. It makes the UFC look stupid. It makes Dana look stupid. Dana looks the most stupid out of everyone. And Jon Jones is basically playing him, too. So that at the end of the day, Jon Jones is going to fight Alexander Gustafsson, and everyone's going to look like a fucking retard in the end at the UFC for going through this stupid battle. It's just horrible business, and it looks terrible for the company, and everyone looks immature, and this is why the WWE is the real mixed martial arts organization.
Well put, brother. Well put. We will move on, though, to a segment we do at the first podcast of every month. We break down the fight we're most pumped for in the upcoming month. It is the fight we're pumped for. Oops. All right, the fight I'm giving a shout out to is Diego Sanchez and Ross Pearson. It's going to be the co-main event at the upcoming UFC Fight Night Albuquerque. Hustam Khabilov versus Bendo. This is going to be a fun ass fight. Diego always brings it. Pearson always brings it. Both of these guys can swing leather, and I think it's going to be a fun fight. I got Sanchez Pearson. Alan, who you got?
Who else do I got other than Kelvin, the bad boy Gastelum? It's going to be fighting Saturday, June 28th in San Antonio, Texas. Only a couple hours from where I live here in Louisiana. I'm going to be there live in person, hanging out with Chris209. Shout out to him on Twitter. We're going to be sitting in the same section, and it's going to be glorious. It's going to be taking on Nico Misoke, who's a excellent purple belt jiu-jitsu grappler, really big guy for 170, and it's going to be one of Kelvin's toughest matchups. Look forward to it, people. Tune in to Fox Sports 1 on the main card.
Conley, who is your fight you're pumped for June 2014?
Before I get into that, I just got to shout out Ross, man. You completely changed my mind. You are definitely right. That's why you're the best Jew in the business, man. But as far as the fight I'm pumped for, you know what? Ali Bagatunov or Bag of Tuna versus Johnson. That's a very interesting fight because it seems like there may be a paradigm shift going on. All these, title holders, Aldo, you got Silva last year. You have all these guys, GSP, last year held the title for so long. Even Demetrius Johnson. They've held the title for so long. There hasn't been any fire in these guys, up-and-coming guys. I think this is the time, since Weidman knocked out Silva, since GSP resigned, since TJ Dillashaw absolutely decimated Renan Barão. these guys, I mean, it changed everybody's mind. Now they have the confidence to, to topple the guys that have been on top for a long time. And I honestly think that Bag of Tuna has a really good, a very good chance. And that's why I'm so pumped for the Bag of Tuna fight with Johnson.
Word, yeah. You do make a good point in that there's been a lot of changing of the guard recently. We almost saw Jones lose. We probably will see him lose in his next couple fights. Silva drops off. George drops off. Bindo was champion for a couple years, drops off. Aldo could very well drop off fighting Mendez. Barao drops off. But Demetrius Johnson, I mean, holy shit, as long as this guy keeps fighting to the level he is fighting at, honestly, you want to know what? If I had to choose one guy who I think is going to be the number one pound for pound fighter at the beginning of 2015, it's probably a toss up between Weidman and Mighty Mouse, and I think I've got Mighty Mouse, honestly, because you look at Aldo, he could very well lose against Mendez. Jones, I don't think most people think he'll be able to make it past Gustafsson and Cormier. Those are the current kings. Once they drop off, Johnson, in my eyes, at least, is the top pound for pound guy in the world. But talk about paradigm shifts. If we learn one thing about UFC 173, it's don't sleep on the underdog. And another thing, these Russians have been storming the UFC. So anyone to come in and win the fight, it can't be that shocking. I just don't think the tools that Bagatinov will be bringing into the cage are near enough to get past Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Ross, what fight are you most pumped for June 2014?
Yeah, you guys have got some good fights that you guys are pumped for. Diego Sanchez and Ross Pearson. That's going to be a barn burner. Kelvin Gastelum, his fight, obviously, we all love KG. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson and Ali Bag of Tuna. That's going to be fucking awesome. Demetrius, one of the pound for pound best in the world. But I pick one that's a higher level fight than all of them, a bigger fight, a better fight than all of them, and that is the first fight of the night at the UFC New Zealand card, John Vellante and Sean O'Connell. John Vellante is a staple here at Power MMA. He mainly trains out of Belmore Kickboxing Academy, but he's always at Power MMA working with Longo and working with Weidman. He works out with all these guys. He's sparring here all the time. So he's like a family member at the gym. So, of course, that's the fight I'm looking forward to the most because, obviously, I'm backing my boy, John Vellante. And, he had a rough go-around his last time out. He was sick going into the fight, and his cardio just failed him. And then he got hit in the body a lot by Fabio, and it slowed him down even further. He was completely exhausted. The trip to Brazil didn't really help the whole sickness. So he didn't have a good go-around last time. This time he's going to get his chance to shine. He will shine. He's going to destroy this dude. John's working really hard. His striking's looking good. His wrestling's looking good. I don't see anything else other than a John Vellante knockout for this one.
Other honorable mentions for the fight we're pumped for: Eric Perez, Brian Caraway, RDA versus Jason Hyde, John Dodson taking on John Moraga, Bindo and Hustam. What else is going down? Rory McDonald versus Tyron Woodley. That's going to be a war. Bader versus Cavalcante. Arlovsky, Schaub. Bunch of shit. Nate Marquardt taking on James Tehuna. Hatsu Hioki versus Charles Oliveira. Miles Jury against Abel Trujillo. Cub Swanson and Jeremy Stevens. People, it's going to be a good month of fighting if you're a fan of the UFC. I'm pumped for it, but we do have to move on. Moving on to Cole Miller backing out of his fight at UFC Dublin against Conor McGregor, and Diego Brandao steps in. I think the first thought of a lot of MMA fans seeing that Diego stepped into a 5-round fight is he going to have the cardio? Will the cardio even be needed? This is a guy who, probably will be a pretty big underdog for good reason, but he's got the one punch power to end what I think is currently a 10 fight winning streak for Mr. McGregor. What do you think about the substitution for Cole Miller, and do you think Diego Brandao will be able to pose a threat to Conor McGregor, Alan? For fuck's sake.
Aye, for fuck's sake. Oh man, it's going to be fucking terrible. Conor McGregor is going to go in there and he's going to destroy Diego Brandao. It's not even going to be a contest. Don't even know why we're talking about this. So, yeah, get the fuck out of here, Diego Brandao. Go back to Brazil. You can't even fucking fight Dustin Poirier. And that's who the UFC wants Conor McGregor to fight next. So, yeah, it's not even going to be a contest, man. It's going to be just fucking terrible. Conor McGregor is going to go in there, pick him apart, destroy him, play with him, do whatever he wants, because the Irishman is coming for the Louisianian. We all know that the UFC wants to set up Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor in a title contender. Winner gets a title shot matchup, and the winner will face Chad Mendes after he beats the living shit out of Jose Aldo.
Hell yeah, Razor.
I believe it was said on this podcast. Who did the Conor McGregor impression? Shut the fuck up, for Christ's sake.
I think all of us have done it at one point or another.
For fuck's sake.
For fuck's sake.
Hotel room in Boston. I'll never forget that. Alan will remember it too.
Yeah, man. Conor McGregor, Diego Brandao. This is a lot better. Like, I hate to say it, Cole Miller, he was kind of a can up against Conor McGregor. Diego Brandao, he is a legitimate threat. I mean, as long as he makes weight. I mean, he's had weight issues in the past, but, reading his tweets, and, he's been responding to me a few times, and, dude, he sounds pretty, legit as far as his drive. You can tell, like, he is training every single day. He doesn't even care. I mean, he's very passionate about what he's doing. And, it's going to tell us, when we see this fight, it's going to tell us the level that Conor McGregor's at. Because if you remember last year, they were saying Diego Brandao, this guy could be at, the next shot, for Aldo if he could just make weight. Well, we're going to see in a few months, if Conor McGregor's the real thing, or we're gonna see what level he's at. So I'm really pumped for this fight. I think this is a lot better. Cole Miller, you're on kind of a streak, but face it, man. There's levels, and you need to work on getting to McGregor's level, and it's pretty obvious McGregor's that good. So we'll see. Brandao McGregor.
I think this is a worse fight. I think Diego Brandao is a worse opponent than, and I don't mean a harder fight. I mean, he's literally an easier fight for Conor McGregor than Cole Miller. Cole Miller had one asset that Diego Brandao doesn't, and that's size. Cole Miller is huge for the weight class, which could possibly pose Conor McGregor some problems. Could. I'm not saying it would, but it could. Diego Brandao will not pose Conor McGregor any problems. Diego Brandao is very wild. Diego Brandao has a 5-minute gas tank, then it goes away, then he somehow regains like a little bit of gas just to make it through the third round and possibly squeak out a decision. He finds a way to lose all the time. He's a mental midget. He's got a temper issue. I just don't see how Conor McGregor, who in my opinion is a technical master, the guy's very, very technical with his approach, and people like to talk a lot of shit about him and say, oh, he's untested. Sure, he hasn't fought a bunch of people yet because he's been injured and he's only had 2 fights, but this guy's he is the real deal, and he's going to be a title contender, and he's going to fight for the UFC belt one day because he's just that damn good. I don't see how Conor McGregor loses to the midget with a temper problem and Diego Brandao. I see Conor McGregor picking him apart and absolutely decimating him. And I think it's an absolute crime that the UFC did not call Dustin Poirier to give him this fight. Poirier is not injured. He's not medically suspended. He's in training. He's ready to go. And they didn't call him up for this fight, which is atrocious because Poirier beat the fuck out of Diego Brandao back at UFC 168 in Brandau's last fight. So why is Brandao all of a sudden, after missing weight, threatening to stab him in the neck, and getting knocked out, getting promoted to a main event? I thought the guy should have been cut. Getting promoted to him, this is disgusting. Whatever, Conor's going to beat the fuck out of him, and we'll move on.
Fair enough. We will move on. The last bit of news. I tried it out last week. We'll keep doing it this week, where I just very quickly break down all the news stories we didn't have time to pass around tonight. Rumors floating around about Anderson versus Nick Diaz fighting in early 2015. Both guys seem very down for the fight. The UFC demo released yesterday to mixed reviews. Bobby Green tragically loses his brother due to a drive-by shooting. Thoughts going out to him and his family. Dana White saying Chael could one day be president of the UFC, to many Chael haters' chagrin. Mark Hunt versus Roy Nelson slated for Japan in September. Habib Nurmagomedov posting a picture of him carrying around a bear who he calls a good training partner of his. Chad Mendez to Jose Aldo, quote, "I am going to beat your ass." This responding to Jose Aldo saying he'll get revenge on Team Alpha Male for posting up an Instagram picture where there was a sign-up sheet for a Dwayne Bang Ludwig Muay Thai tournament, and they wrote Henan Barao in. The joke being that Henan Barao needs to tighten up his Bang Muay Thai. Moving on, Ben Askren wins again. He's been hit 6 times in his last 4 fights. I really wish that guy could get brought over to the UFC. Glory fighter Melvin Manhoef still interested in fighting in the UFC, says that's still on his mind a lot. The complete Glory 17 card on Spike has been finalized. If you want to go check that out, it'll be June 21st. BJ Penn brings Dominic Cruz to Hawaii to train with him. Finally, the UFC accidentally sends both fight canvases, the actual surface that they fight on, that's put over, the actual construction of the ring. If you watch both events, you notice that the Brazil fight had ads in the ring. The Germany fight had nothing. I pointed that out to Ross, actually, and then literally like 5 minutes later, Dana tweets out somebody, I think it was hashtag somebody fucked up big, because somebody sent the canvas to the wrong place. Yeah, those are all the news snippets. All we have left is breaking down UFC on Fight Night. Albuquerque, Benson Henderson versus Hustam Khabilov. But it's time to break out a segment we honestly haven't done, I think, since probably late 2013. It's been a while, but he's back, so we're breaking it back out. It's time to bring the Jew to you, people.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's back. I've been talking to the producers for weeks, months, years. I've only been here for a year, but nonetheless, I have finally gotten them to agree to bring the Jew to you. This week, normally what I do on Bring the Jew to You is I usually give you bets. I tell you how to make money. But recently, I have had horrible luck with bets. So instead of making you broke, just like me, I'm going to drop some knowledge on you fools. You see, we've been talking about bad business, right? How people have been making bad business decisions. Dana White talking all this shit about his champion. It's a bad business decision. You know what the worst business decision has been the last month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, year maybe? Is the abomination that went down on Monday Night Raw this past Monday, when Seth Rollins, the architect of the Shield, hit his brothers in the back with a steel chair, turned on his own people. Why? Why, Seth Rollins? Why would you do such a stupid thing? Here you are with the Shield, a mega group, a mega power. I mean, here you are. You guys have kicked everyone's ass. You're the pound-for-pound best group in the world. You guys are the top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in the world, bar none. No doubt about it. And yet, as a cohesive unit, You don't think you can function anymore, so you decide to turn your back on them? What kind of business decision is that? What were you thinking, Seth Rollins? That is horrible business, and now you side yourself with Triple H, who hasn't won a fight since he beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania last year. He hasn't won a fight since then. And Randy Orton, who, let's be honest, can't win a fight on his own. I mean, he has to resort to cheating and outside methods in order to win a fight. I mean, come on. What kind of decision was this, Seth Rollins? What the fuck were you thinking? You turned your back on the Shield. You turned your back on all the people. You turned your back on me. And for that, Seth Rollins, I will find you and I will end you. Believe in the Jew.
God damn, you heard it first, people. Believe in the Jew. That brings us to our final topic tonight. UFC Fight Night, Henderson versus Khabilov. The main card starts at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on Fox Sports 1. There will also be one Fight Pass prelim, four fights on the Fox Sports prelim, pardon me. And like I said, it will be at the Tingley Coliseum in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Let's start with the prelims like we always do. In a Fight Pass card, or fight, Pat Cummins, the guy who stepped up from working at a Starbucks to fighting Daniel Cormier. He was expected to fight Francimar Barroso. However, Barroso was forced to pull out due to injury, and he was replaced by the newcomer Roger Navarez. Moving to Fox Sports 1, we have 4 fights. John Tuck taking on Jake Lindsay. Scott Jorgensen, who's moved down to 125, taking on Danny Martinez. And Bobby Volker taking on Lance Benoist. And also Yautzin Meza versus Sergio Pettis in 135. Sorry, I started freaking out. I don't know if someone's driving a truck into my apartment building, but there are super loud bangs going on, so I'm probably going to investigate that while you guys break down the prelims. Alan?
Pat Cummings, where hast thou gone? From the main card, co-main event, all the way to the early prelim card. It's kind of sad, but, I think he's going to come in here and he'll probably destroy Navarez. He was having trouble getting fights, quit his job, and, took the check for the co-main event for the pay-per-view against Daniel Cormier, in which he got annihilated with one punch. So I think this will be interesting, to see how he comes out here in his second fight in the UFC. Shouldn't have any jitters. Should be, well prepared for this fight, and comes out and hopefully he'll get the win and continue on in the UFC. John Tuck versus somebody I don't know. John Tuck should definitely win this fight. Scotty Jorgensen versus I don't know who this is. Jorgensen has looked terrible at 125 pounds. He's looked weak. He's looked slow. He's gassed. I don't think 125 is the division for him. I think he's better at 135. But, we'll see if he comes in. I don't know what the deal is. If he loses this one, he's definitely getting cut from the UFC, because the dude's lost like 8 fights out of like his last 10. It's a shame, because he was one of the top guys in the 135 division whenever he came in. Bobby Volker and Benoist. Volker, the dude likes to throw haymakers, and he always stands in there and trades. I'm always down to watch a Bobby Volker fight. I think a lot of people will enjoy this fight. It'll probably be something special. Probably end up being a knockout. And then you got Yautzin Meza versus Sergio, the guy who got his eyes fixed, Pettis. Apparently, he was having vision problems, and that was why he was having, a problem whenever he fought Alex Caceres. And he still was winning the fight. It was a close fight, but he was winning the fight up until the time when he got choked out at the very end. So it will be interesting to see how he does now that he has, had this surgery and his vision, is fixed, and he's able to see and use his depth perception against other fighters, because we all know that's a super fucking important attribute to have when you're in the octagon, measuring distance and trying to avoid strikes and land strikes of your own.
Yeah, Patrick Cummins, That's funny because he does have some screen time. He has a little face value. His opponent, I'm looking on UFC.com right now, literally does not have a face. So he's like pulling this like Noob Saibot if you play Mortal Kombat. He's like doing, I guess he's in that clan or something. But I would say Patrick Cummins, as far as the Fight Pass. I'm actually pretty excited to see this one because, maybe we'll see a real Patrick Cummins. Like, he was a can for Cormier. Let's see what the guy can do. John Tuck and Jake Lindsay. I'm picking Tuck mainly because Jake Lindsay's in the same clan that Roger Navarez is. I mean, they're both doing that Noob Saibot thing. I think Jorgensen will get the better of Danny Martinez. He's coming off a tough loss, so yeah, I think he's getting in desperation mode. Volker and Lance Benoist. The only reason I care about this fight is because I think Volker lost to Matt Brown. So I guess since Matt Brown punched Volker, I'm going for Volker. So, but Yeltsin Maitan Sergio Pettis. This is the main event on the preliminary card, which I'm excited to see this fight. It's the old versus the new. 20-year-old, I think, versus 35-year-old. Yeltsin Mesa, he has some experience. Sergio doesn't, but he's got a lot of tenacity. Definitely interested in seeing this fight. It's going to definitely show us what Sergio's made out of. I'm kind of pushing for Sergio, but you know what? If Yeltsin Mesa pulls it off, I would not be surprised. And that's what I have for this card.
All right, let's start with Patrick Cummins because he is the first fight of the night. Patrick Cummins went in there on a week notice, maybe less than a week's notice, against Daniel Cormier and got knocked out in a minute. Not many people were surprised. Even I wasn't surprised. I was touting up Cummins. I was trying to make it seem like Cummins was going to go in there and beat him. I knew what was going to happen. It was just fun to troll and fun to make it seem like Cummins was going to actually destroy him. That being said, everything I said about Patrick Cummins was not a lie. Patrick Cummins is really good. Patrick Cummins is a very good prospect. Patrick Cummins is a great wrestler, and he's someone that could make waves in the UFC light heavyweight division. I believe he is the best UFC light heavyweight prospect there is right now. I think he goes into this fight against Roger Navarez, and I think he absolutely destroys him. Navarez has been fighting at middleweight. He's going up to light heavyweight. He's 6'3", so he's going to actually have an inch in height on Cummins, but I see him getting dominated. I think Patrick finishes this fight in the first round, and we see a turn. John Tuck and Jake Lindsay. A lot of people are going to pick John Tuck here. I'm picking Jake Lindsay. Jake Lindsay is a new signing to the UFC. This is his UFC debut. He is a very, very, very good prospect. He is one of my fighters to look out for. He is undefeated in both his pro and amateur career. He's 4-0 as an amateur, and he's 9-0 as a professional. He's got really good striking. He's got great submissions. He's got a lot of potential and a lot of time to improve. John Tuck is also a pretty good fighter, but I don't see anything special in John Tuck. I don't think John Tuck wins this fight. I'm picking Jake Lindsay. I think he outstrikes him and possibly knocks him out. Scott Jorgensen and Danny Martinez. Scott Jorgensen has not looked good at all lately. I just don't know if he really has it anymore. That being said, this is a fight he should win. Danny Martinez is not really that good. He's not someone that should beat Scott Jorgensen. So I'm picking Jorgensen. If Jorgensen loses this, it's time to hang it up. Volker and Lance Benoist. Bobby Volker, like you guys mentioned, he goes in there and he throws these wild haymakers and he gets into brawls and he takes a ton of punishment. And it's always entertaining. Lance Benoist is not like that. Lance Benoist, though, he has dropped 2 straight. He's more of a submissions guy, so he's going to probably look to take this to the ground. Bobby Volker is going to look to keep it on the feet. I I think Benoist gets it to the ground, and I think Benoist is able to put Bobby Volker away with a submission, maybe a rear naked choke or something. I don't think Bobby Volker's that good. He's just a brawler, a glorified brawler. That's it. And Sergio Pettis is fighting Yao? Why didn't anyone tell me that Sergio Pettis was fighting Yao?
Yeah, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah. That being said, I think Yao gets fucked up. I think Sergio Pettis knocks Yao the fuck out. I don't think Yao has any chance. Apparently, Yao's had past UFC fights too, and he hasn't really looked good in those too. Damn, Yao, you've been lying to us this whole time. Yeah, I think Yao gets knocked the fuck out by Sergio Pettis.
Yeah, Yao is 1-2 in the UFC. Has been telling us for a really long time he's not gone pro yet. He's still telling us, at least, he's doing AMI jits tournaments and Muay Thai smokers, and he's apparently 20-9 on his professional MMA record. Thanks a lot, Yao, you son of a bitch. Let's get to the main card. I stole a Ramsey's line there, I will admit. The main card, let's break down the 5 fights up to the main event. I want to talk about the main event on its own because Bindo versus Khabilov is very interesting. Honestly, part of me wants to break down this whole main card fight by fight, but that'll take another hour. And Ustream turns into a pumpkin, as Rogan likes saying, after 3 hours. So we're just going to break down the main card all in one bunch. 5 fights, 5 great fights. This is a card you don't want to miss. We have lots of cards where you've got a lot of one-sided matches on it, but we actually have a lot of really close fights here. Eric Perez and Brian Caraway, a really close fight. Perez has awesome jits. Caraway's known for wrestling, obviously the boyfriend of Misha Tate. I've said questionable things about in the past, but you know what? Coach Jamie Huey is going over to Vegas to go work with Team Extreme Couture. Caraway and Tate are a part of that, so you know what? I will bury the hatchet with me and Caraway, even though he said some horrible things about my friend Pat Bam Bam Healy. Perez Caraway, honestly, it's going to be close either way. I think it's going to be a split 29-28, sort of fight. Interesting to see who wins that. It's a shame we didn't get Ramses on tonight because in the next fight at lightweight, Ramses is Thug Jitsu master Yves Edwards, also from Austin, Texas, taking on Peter Hallman. I haven't looked at the lines on that yet. Actually, you know what? I'll pull it up now. I got the fucking internets in front of me. Why the hell wouldn't I? So, Perez versus Caraway. Perez is -115, Caraway -105. Hallman the favorite in the fight against Yves Edwards, -175. Moving on, Rafael Dos Anjos. His last fight against Khabib really showed how that guy dominates. I mean, RDA is a top flight lightweight. Don't get it twisted. He has some of the best jits in the entire fucking, division. And man, what a fight. But I do expect that Dos Anjos will sort of rebound from that fight and defeat Jason High. Moving on, John Dodson versus John Moraga, 2 men who have fought and lost to Demetrius Johnson for the flyweight championship. The winner of this will probably be in the driver's shot as far as getting a title shot soon. I don't know if they would be the number 1 guy next in line, but they would definitely be, 1, 2, or 3. They would be very close. And finally, the fight I said is going to be the fight I'm most pumped for June. Diego Sanchez taking on Ross Pearson. If you know anything about either of these guys, you know it's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be a war. It's going to be a lot of fun, people. These 5 fights will save Bindo Khabilov for the very end. But, Alan, what do you think about them?
Eric Perez and Brian Caraway. It'll be a good fight. Yves Edwards, Peter Hallman. Yves Edwards has had over 60 MMA fights. He's done. Jason High moving down weight class versus Dos Anjos. I think Jason High has just got the wrestling to put it on Dos Anjos and make
an upset pick.
Yeah, I'm picking Jason High, my boy, even though he's an asshole. And then John Dodson, Jesus Christ, he's going to knock Moraga the fuck out. I mean, he almost knocked out Demetrius Johnson. It was beautiful, and that's what he's gonna do to John Moraga. It's gonna be a quick one. It's probably gonna end in the first round because we all know that the little half Asian, mutant is gonna come out there and just buzz like a bee and fucking just swing haymakers. It's gonna be nuts. And then Diego Sanchez and Ross Pearson. Jake, I know you picked this as your fight, your favorite fight of the month or whatever, but somebody needs to put a bullet in the back of Diego Sanchez's head. when that horse gets too old and it can no longer perform and it's just in pain all the time, but it just can't do anything about it. Whenever, sometimes you just got to take old Yeller out in the back and put him down. Jesus Christ.
Damn, Alan suggesting that the UFC put down Diego Sanchez. Shit got dark extremely quickly. The main card, what are your thoughts, Razor Ramon?
Oh man. Here we go. The main card. All right. Eric Perez, Brian Caraway. Someone on Twitter said that Miesha Tate gives Brian Caraway an allowance. And I say that because Hunter from Roasted, has used some of my jokes on air, and he always says, someone from Twitter. And I'm like, damn, man, no shout out? Anyway, I think Brian...
Man, I fucking spell it out if I give you a shout out on air. Shit.
No, you do, and thank you.
No
But
problem.
Hunter, man, he's used like 3 of my jokes that I sent him, and he's always like, someone on Twitter, and I'm like, fuck. But anyway, Caraway, man, you know what? I think Caraway can pull it out with his wrestling. I just recently watched the Tough with who was it? I guess I can't remember which Tough it was, but Caraway was on the episode Tough. He lost in the first round, but I mean his wrestling was pretty impressive actually. So I think he can pull it out. I like Eric Perez a lot, but I just think I have a gut feeling Caraway's gonna get this one. Eve Edwards and Peter Hallman. Man, I like Eve Edwards, but man, like Alan said, I mean, save a bullet for Diego, man. And I like the thug jitsu master, as Ramses would say, but man, he's getting up there. We'll see. I'm just waiting to watch this one, and I'm gonna be pulling for Edwards, but I won't be expecting much. Hopefully, he can surprise us. Dos Anjos and Jason High. I'm high on High, man. Like sometimes when I'm high. So I think Jason High, if he plays smart, he can take out Dos Anjos. And I think, I really have to give a lot of credit to the matchmakers on this one because I really do think that they are evenly matched. I think that they both have strengths and weaknesses that work into the opponent's advantage. So this is going to be a really cool one to watch, actually. I'm really excited about that particular one. John Dodson and John Moraga. I've always said at the end of every rainbow, you'll find one of 2 things. John Dodson or Conor McGregor fucking a midget. And I think at the end of this rainbow, John Dodson is going to take it, man. You're going to find John Dodson there. You will not find a midget, but you will find
I don't know if you're actually saying the things you're saying or I just smoked way too much weed tonight, but go ahead, Racer.
You're hallucinating all of this.
Hell yeah.
It's all a dream, man. Anyway, Diego Sanchez, Ross Pearson. You know what thrives poor Diego is he has 170 family members coming to this event. So this is going to tell us this fight, Sanchez versus Pearson. Pearson's going to learn from Miles Jury. Sanchez is not going to learn from Miles Jury. He's going to do the same thing. And Sanchez, what he's going to do is going to be either amazing or depressing. And, I really am pulling for Diego. I actually put some money on him, mainly because this is the fight that we're going to see if emotion can actually win fights, because we're going to see it in the ring. Diego Sanchez will bring the emotion into the ring, because God knows if you've ever had a Mexican girlfriend, they bring emotion into the ring. That is your navel. Anyway, now Benson, Henderson, and are we doing the main event or no?
Not yet.
Okay.
Damn.
Hold off. Go ahead, Ross.
I really got to stop doing LSD before these fucking shows. Ross,
Black tar heroin.
Hell yeah. Ross, what are your thoughts on these 5 fights up to the main event, but not the main event, the main card of UFC Albuquerque this Saturday?
I don't do drugs, but I'm fairly certain I just did drugs. Anyway, Eric Perez and Brian Caraway, this is really interesting because both guys were on really good streaks, and then their streaks were snapped by a guy who's second in line for the UFC Bantamweight Championship right now in Takeo Mizugaki. And both of them lost very close split decisions. Arguably could have gotten the nod over the guy. I think Eric Perez is a future title contender. I think he's going to fight for the Bantamweight title one day. Very, very, very talented. He's got knockout power. He's a great grappler. His jiu-jitsu game is really slick. He came into the UFC 3 in a row, just rattled them off, finish after finish after finish. In the first round, he beat Ken Stone, John Albert, and then who'd he beat? Shit. I can't remember the other guy he beat. Cannot remember the other guy he beat. It was the same night that Kane fought JDS the second time. I can't remember who it was, but he finished him too. And then he got derailed by Takeo Mizugaki. But don't sleep on Eric Perez, because he's going to be a future title contender. That being said, Brian Caraway is also a guy that can't be slept on. He's won 4 of his last 5. The only loss being to Takeo Mizugaki, and it was a close split decision loss. And a lot of people actually thought Caraway was robbed in that fight. So Caraway is also another really good wrestler. Not like really, really good wrestler, but he's a good wrestler. He's a high school wrestler. He's got a solid ground game. His favorite thing is those chokes. He loves those chokes. I think he's going to struggle a little bit. I don't think he's going to be able to implement his game so much on Eric Perez. Eric Perez is very, very good at grappling. I have a hard time seeing Caraway putting him out with a choke or anything, or even really significantly out grappling him. I think it's going to go back and forth, and I think Eric Perez is actually going to walk away with the victory still. The next fight on the card, what is it? Yves Edwards and Peter Hallman. Yves, like you said, Alan, this dude has had 60-plus fights. His career's over. I mean, he's lost 3 straight, albeit the last one was overturned, and the 2 before that were split decisions. But he was knocked out in his last fight. He was brutally knocked out once by Sam Stout a couple years ago back at UFC 131. I don't see really much left for Yves. I think Peter Hallman is a fairly decent prospect. You know, Al, my boy Al Iaquinta beat that ass back in Manchester in October, but that's nothing to be ashamed of. Al is a very, very good fighter, and Peter Hallman still has a bright future ahead of him. I think Peter Hallman walks away with a victory, probably with a submission win. Rafael Dos Anjos and Jason High. Okay, I as well am picking Jason High. I think Jason High is going to upset Rafael Dos Anjos. I think the wrestling game is going to be the factor. I think he's going to use strength, size, although I think they might be the same height, but he will have a strength advantage.
Actually, Dos Anjos is like an inch taller, or not an inch, but like he's a centimeter taller or some shit.
I still think Jason High is going to be the stronger of the two. I think Jason High is going to be stronger when they're wrestling, and that's going to win him the fight. I think he's going to win a decision, split decision, unanimous decision, one of those. I think he picks up a decision win here. The big upset of the night, John Dodson and John Moraga. John Moraga is up there for ghettoist UFC fighter. If you've never seen his Twitter feed, check it out. It's the most ghetto thing you'll ever read. I know Yao's listening. Not right now, but he's listening after this.
Yao actually has probably the most ghetto Twitter.
Yeah, no, Yao probably has the ghetto Twitter, but Yao, we talked about this the other night with John Moraga. I do still follow that beautiful, beautiful Twitter. John Dodson and John Moraga. John Moraga's very good. He's a finisher. He's a great striker. He's a great grappler. He's got good submissions, but he's not a great wrestler. So I'm not going to say he's a great grappler. He's got some good jiu-jitsu. He's got some good jits, but he is not a good wrestler. If he fights a wrestler, he struggles. John Dodson's not going to wrestle him, but John Dodson's also arguably, possibly the number one flyweight in the world. I mean, he had a very close fight with Demetrius Johnson that he barely lost. He almost beat him. He could beat him in a rematch. He's that damn good. He's fast. He's explosive. He's, in my opinion, the pound-for-pound hardest puncher in the UFC. When you measure it up by division, this is a guy who is a 125-pounder, yet he's blasting dudes, and blasting dudes that are at 135 pounds too. So he is a monster. I think John Dodson, as good as John Moraga is, I think John Dodson knocks John Moraga out, and John Dodson deserves another title shot after this win. And then Diego Sanchez and Ross Pearson. This is it. If Diego loses, you're done. That's the end of Diego's career. That being said, it could also be the end of Ross Pearson if Ross Pearson loses. This is a very pivotal fight for both guys. Ross, obviously, he's not coming off a loss. He's coming off a no contest to Melvin Guillard, and before that, he's got a couple of wins. But if you lose to Diego Sanchez, that's a pretty bad sign of what's to come in your career. I see this fight going one of two ways. I see Diego's chin finally just breaking and him getting put out cold and possibly passing away inside the octagon. Hopefully not. That was really, really dark. That was super, super dark. That was darker than...
This podcast is getting dark as hell.
Yeah, I figured it went
Darker
downhill already. So, yeah, okay, that really just brought it downhill. I see it going either Diego Sanchez just getting brutally knocked out, or Diego Sanchez winning a decision by just wrestling Ross Pearson, which I think is the smart thing. That's what he should do. If he wants to win this fight, don't stand and trade. Wrestle. Go to your grappling. Because Diego Sanchez is a pretty damn good wrestler when he tries. So, Diego, go wrestle.
When he's wrestling high schoolers.
Oh, snap.
When he's wrestling Ross Pearson, who's a Brit with no wrestling, then yes, he can beat Ross Pearson.
Hell yeah. Well, shoot, I guess that brings us to our main event. Benson Henderson taking on Rustam Khabilov, or Khabilov. I don't know if you're supposed to pronounce the K. Benson, I don't know, looking at his recent fights, it's weird, because he's 4-1 in his last 5, but the guy could easily be 1-4. He has a definite loss to Tony Pettis by armbar. He has a definite win against Nate Diaz. Those other 3 fights, split decision wins against Frankie Edgar at UFC 150, Gilbert Melendez at UFC on Fox, I think it was like 7, I don't know, the UFC on Fox where he fought Gilbert, and the UFC on Fox that he had headlined with Josh Thompson. A lot of people think he lost all those 3 fights. He won those 3 fights. So, the guy I think currently on the UFC rankings is rated first, but he's not going to get that, that title shot. He, once again, he's taken on a guy in Khabilov who is so underrated. So many people think Bindo is just going to run this guy over. He's 17-1, 3-0 in the UFC. just some of the nastiest suplexes you've ever seen. Started training with Jackson's MMA a couple years ago. An international master of sports in Sambo. The guy's only 27. He is a little undersized. That's crazy. He is only 5'8". Started fighting at middleweight. Fights at lightweight. Might even be able to move to featherweight. In which case, he honestly would probably give both Mendez and Jose Aldo problems. I'm not saying he'd beat them, but it would definitely be an interesting matchup. I could very well see Bindo losing this. I think it's going to be a close fight, but I think this is one of the first fights where Bindo knows that he probably needs to keep it standing. He got really boring when he came from the WEC to the UFC. Started grinding out a lot of decisions. Started, just not. I don't want to call him a shell of himself because he still was a champion, and I think he had 3 or 4 defenses of the UFC championship. But this is one fight he's really gonna need to try and keep standing. I think if he does keep it standing, Benson's got the tools to sort of pick him apart. But do not sleep on the Tiger, Rustam Khabilov, because he could very well go in, shock the world, beat the UFC's #1 ranked lightweight. Alan?
Yeah, and what's really funny is that Bindo said on UFC Tonight that he thought that this was a fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov whenever he accepted this fight. He did not even know who Rustam Khabilov even was. And now he's fighting the man. By God. I think this is a really good matchup, man. Stylistically, I think they match up really well against each other. Bindo's probably got the more diverse striking. He's probably got a better cardio gas tank. But, man, I'm really interesting to see the grappling exchanges between these two guys. If Khabilov can get his hands on Bindo, the things that he's gonna do. I like Bindo. He's not a bad guy, but sometimes he underperforms. It's a little underwhelming, and to see Khabilov come in there and maybe possibly knock Bindo out with a suplex would be beautiful. So I don't know. I think we're gonna see something special. I think both guys are gonna rise to the occasion, and they're gonna put in fight of the night performances. Bindo, I think he's got that fire in him, man. He just wants to fight anybody. He like he said on UFC Tonight. Since the title picture is backed up for like the next year, he's like, whoever's supposed to fight for the title next, just send them to me, because I'll take on anyone.
Jake from the MMA Podcast.
Yes, sir.
My mama always told me, she told me ever since I was young that as long as they look good from behind and they wear a convincing frizzy wig, you can spoon the hell out of them and it's not gay.
It's true.
And if you saw Josh Thompson versus Benson Henderson, you knew deep down inside that Josh Thompson won that fight, man. He spooned the hell out of Benson. Now, on the other hand, on this fight, Rustam Khabilov is fighting Benson Henderson. And if Benson gives up his back for a moment against Rustam, you can bet that there is going to be major problems. I can't recall the exact percentage that Thompson had Benson's back that fight, but it was a majority of that fight. So if Benson gives up his back to Rustam, it's going to be a very, very bad day for Benson. And I'm actually, I'm picking Rustam in this mainly because, yeah, he is underrated, but it's all up to that grappling, and I believe that he can get Benson into a corner. He can cut him off. He can evade his strikes, and he can get spooning with them. And I think Rustam Khabilov will come out with the win on this one.
Hell yeah! I did way too many drugs before this damn episode of the MMA podcast, the 93rd episode. Ross, finish it up for us. The last bit of MMA we break down before we send this godforsaken podcast into the interwebs.
Well, the last time I broke down a main event, intricately at least, it was the Barao Dillashaw one. So I think it's only fitting that I give a nice little breakdown again, or a big breakdown. I mean, Rustam Khabilov is awesome. Rustam Khabilov is fucking awesome. He is a fantastic fighter. More specifically, a fantastic grappler. Like a world-class grappler. Like just like Khabib Nurmagomedov. He is a world-class Sambo master. And his striking is improving greatly. He's working with Winklejohn. He's at the Jackson camp. That's a great place to be. He's with the right people. He's got the right training partners. His striking is improving tremendously. Look at the fight. His last fight. He fought Jorge Masvidal, who's a very good striker. And he beat him on the feet. I mean, he beat him everywhere. He won that whole fight. I scored that fight 30-27. Somehow people thought Masvidal possibly won that fight, which to me, I didn't see that at all. But Khabilov is just that damn good. His UFC debut was probably the best UFC debut I've ever seen. He took Vince Pichel, and you look at Vince Pichel right now. Vince Pichel just beat Anthony Njokuani, and Anthony Njokuani is no joke. He's a pretty damn good fighter, and especially a threat to Vince Pichel, and he destroyed him. He took Vince Pichel, and he fucking tossed him on his head like 5 times and knocked him out cold. I mean, he picked the dude up and just slammed him over and over and over again until he was seeing stars. That's incredible. That's very difficult to do. Very, very difficult to do. And Vince Pichel is a pretty damn good grappler too. And he made him look amateur. Then he fought Yancy Medeiros. And we didn't get to really see much because he broke Yancy's thumb. But he broke Yancy's thumb because he was throwing him. Well, Yancy broke his thumb, but he broke it because he was getting thrown and he was trying to stop the impact of the fall. And that's what happens. You break shit when you go down. You're gonna break something. If you don't land properly, you will hurt yourself, and that will be that. And that's why he does these slams, because they hurt. I mean, it's an effective technique, and it worked. It caused an injury, and that was that. Khabilov is good, and anyone who's sleeping on Khabilov is going to be in for a huge shock when this dude comes out and he gives Benson Henderson a very tough fight. Now, will he beat Ben Henderson? That is the $1 million question. If he beats Ben Henderson, this guy is going to he's going to fight for the title at some point, obviously, because you beat Ben Henderson, you deserve to fight for the title. If he beats Ben Henderson, it's going to be a crazy situation in the division, because you're going to have him, you're going to have Khabib. They're friends. They've trained together. Who knows if they'll fight each other? That would be an insane fight. But anyway, Ben Henderson. Yes, Ben Henderson squeaked by in his last fight, and I believe he lost the fight. Most people believe he lost the fight. He got armbarred by Pettis before that, and then he had the fight with Gill that I also thought he lost. He hasn't finished shit in years, and it seems like Khabilov is on the rise while Benson might be slightly declining. That being said, Benson is still very, very, very good, and Benson is still able to give guys fits and present kind of a weird... He fights a weird way. It's difficult to fight him, because then you end up in this close fight, and he finds the way to win. He knows how to kind of work the judges, so to speak. Plus, the biggest factor here is this is a 5-round fight, And Ben Henderson has gone 5 rounds many times, while Rustam Khabilov has never been in a 5-round fight in his entire career. So he's never been 5 rounds. He's been 3 rounds, and he has shown slight gas tank issues, while Ben Henderson is a cardio machine, as we know, and it will not run out of gas at any point in this fight. I believe that Rustam Khabilov is going to give Benson Henderson problems for the first 2.5 rounds of this fight. And it's going to look very, very, very competitive. And if Rustam Khabilov is going to win this fight, he's going to finish it with a slam in the first 2 rounds. If this fight gets past the second round, Ben Henderson will cruise away with the decision victory, and not a split decision, but probably a unanimous decision, because he'll be able to dominate the rest of the third, I believe, the fourth and fifth, definitely the fourth and fifth. Ben will just be able to keep up a higher pace. He'll be able to keep that pace going throughout the entire fight, while Rustam will have to fight at his pace and eventually slow down. So I believe that will be the case. I believe Ben is good enough to protect himself against Rustam's grappling and the takedowns and the slams. I also believe Ben is still a better striker than Rustam, although we don't know. Rustam could come out and all of a sudden have really good boxing and just knock Ben out and surprise us all. But I do believe Ben Henderson picks up another decision win, but this time it's a unanimous one.
Well, for the love of God, Ross, honestly, man, no one on this show has ever broken down a fight as well and succinctly as you. If you listened to the show before UFC 173, it was like me really quickly on why Barrow's gonna whoop his ass, Ramsey's really quickly on why Barrow's gonna whoop his ass, Allen really quick on why Barrow's gonna whoop his ass. Then Ross gives a really long explanation about how Dillashaw could end up picking him apart. And yeah, honestly, I feel like we have Jack Slack on the line at times. Follow this man on Twitter at Ross Finkelstein, E before the L, because honestly, he knows his shit more than anyone on this damn show, for real.
Praises me.
Me, Alan, Razor, we all know MMA pretty well, but Ross, you are in another damn league, and I guess that's it. We'll send it out. Thank you so much for listening to the 93rd MMA podcast. If you haven't listened to last night's interview with Uriah Hall, seriously, it's on the iTunes feed. You can find it on YouTube by searching Word on the Street 112 Uriah Hall, or probably just Word on the Street Uriah Hall. Just excellent interview. I mean, Ramses has probably been interviewing guys for a couple of years now, and you really can tell he gives such a comfortable, casual interview. It really loosens guys up a ton, and we had the most candid Uriah Hall I've ever heard in any of his interviews. It was really, really fucking awesome. Follow Ramses on Twitter at the Aunt Jimmy Show. Also, our friends who couldn't make it tonight. A friend who only made it for the first part of the night, the Gracie Ninja, our buddy Yao the Truth, C. Lowenstein, the Enthusiast, Technics, all you motherfuckers, the Meds Ninja. We got a couple fucking ninjas. But let's pass it around the table one more time. Alan, where do we find you on the tweeters?
You can catch me, Westland Eagle AH, on Twitter and Instagram.
That's right. Me, Alan, and Ross will all be in Vegas for International Fight Week. If you're there too, let us know. We'll have a couple cold beer. Razor, thank you for coming on, spending your time with us. Give us another shout out on where we can find you at.
Yeah, man, it was a great time. I had a ton of fun. Conley Razor at Conley Razor, whatever the fuck. And yeah, man, just look me up, reverbnation.com/Robert Razor, which is my first name. Go by Conley. That's
Hell yeah, I thought the music cut you out. I'll just trim that little part out in post. Ross Finkelstein, you break it down like no other. Where do we find you at, brother?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you want to find me on Twitter. You want to find the Jew. You want to find Mr. Finkelstein, Rossy boy. you go to your Twitter, you go to that search, or you just go right after twitter.com. You put a /, backslash, whatever the hell they call it these days, whatever the kids are doing these days. You type in Ross Finkelstein, no spaces, no capitals. Ross Finkelstein, E before the L.
Hell yeah, and thank you once again for tuning in. Future shows, we actually have a couple guests lined up. The return of Aljamain Sterling. We're aiming to get him on before his fight next month. We're also trying to get Wayne Barrett on. It might be getting a little too close to have him on beforehand, but we're definitely going to have him on soon. He will win the Last Man Standing event at Glory 17. I can't thank y'all enough for listening, just being positive, not being cunts on the YouTube comments, just being cool fucking people. Pretty much everyone I've bumped into has been cool as fuck, and we're gonna keep it rolling for the next 93, so until next Wednesday, we gone!